Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Lumi, are you with us?
Yeah.
5 minutes late. Okay, so we're going to do our intro.
She got to redeem herself in the musical chronicle, though.
Yeah. Oh, see? I
Such a
knew
good
it. I knew it. Hey, Sailor Guardians. Welcome to our 4th episode of Moonlight Justice. I'm your host, Grayson. And
I'm
Z,
Lumi.
And I'm Z.
We're going to get this intro down one day. I swear.
It happened.
We're going to get it together.
Moonlight Justice.
Alright, so I'm super stoked for this episode because it's all about Sailor Moon merchandise. And who better to have on this episode to talk about merch other than the top aficionados in my opinion. Brooke, Ochiba Wolf from Sailor Moon Fan Network, and Age from Sailor Tortilla. Before we start, let's go over the power of 3, the 3 principles we uphold here on Moonlight Justice. 1. Practice controversy with civility. We are respectfully discussing our thoughts and opinions, and we are not going to judge each other or anyone else for their opinions on what we'll be discussing. Things will always be discussed constructively and positively. We will not engage in racism, xenophobia, any type of phobias or triggers. However, these topics might come up during some of the topics we're discussing. We'll make sure to warn you beforehand. Welcome! So, Age, can you tell us what you've been up to recently?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to just get talking and talk about all the fun merch stuff. But what have I been up to recently? So big life event. I bought a house a couple months ago. And I am...
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really excited, but I've half done my collection room. I have a big video update coming up as soon as I get everything back up. So I feel like a maid. I've really just been organizing for months. So, I mean, all things positive, so it's a good thing.
That's great. I can't wait to see because I love your room so much. So I'm like really excited to see what it looks like now.
I'll take tips.
And Brooke, what have you been up to recently?
Oh my gosh, busy. I feel like I haven't had any chill for probably 6+ months. I mean, you guys see me, I'm checking out content left and right, updating the site, but something that I just got done recently was last weekend. I went to Planet Comic-Con out there in Kansas City. First convention since like 2014 for me. So it was really cool just to, see the convention scene coming back. Everything seemed like it was going back to normal. It really kind of, I don't know, it cheered me up. The last couple of years have been really crappy. And
Yeah.
I feel like 2023 is finally the year where we're really getting back, and I'm doing air quotes, normal.
That's really cool. And I loved your casual Jupiter cosplay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Although
That
someone
was
called
really
me out. Someone said I had the shoes wrong. So I'm like, oh, man.
There's always someone that has to say something about something.
I did
that-
appreciate it though, because I never found a screenshot with those shoes from the back, because from the front they look like flats, but they're actually like small black pumps. And someone kindly sent me a screenshot. They were really actually nice about it, and I
Okay, good.
appreciated that. I was like, oh, I just felt my pride was hurt a little bit, because I was like, oh man, I really researched this costume. But then someone was like, actually, they're heels, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I do appreciate you telling me. I will have to replace those shoes.
And I think this is a good segue into our next question about how you've been doing in general, because you had an Airbnb incident when you went to that con, didn't you?
Oh gosh, yes. Long story short, I've been using Airbnb for a long time, even from all my Japan trips, we mostly used Airbnb, so usually excellent experiences with the hosts and everything that that they had their places. But with this one in particular, it was a straight up scam. The listing with the photos and everything, they looked very pristine. They looked very staged. They looked great. Everybody that I sent it to, we had 6 people staying in the Airbnb, was like, yeah, this is a great listing. We're down. Let's do it. We get there and we've got stained sheets. The floors look like they've never been swept. There's dirty socks under the beds. It was just a whole awful thing with there were shotgun shells in the driveway, and this is a residential area where people shouldn't be having these guns and shooting them, so
Jeez.
it was a whole like scary situation. So we got out of there, and thankfully we were able to book a hotel last minute to enjoy the convention.
Yes, and I know that you also noted that you were feeling pretty bummed about it, but your friends encouraged you to to attend in costume.
I have the best. Yeah, we didn't get to bed until like well past 1 o'clock on Friday night, and I was originally supposed to cosplay Makoto on Friday, and that didn't happen because of the situation with the Airbnb, and we were also meeting up with a lot of people, and we didn't get to see them because of the situation, so like tensions were just high. But oh my gosh, my friends really were like so just they helped bring, like, they understood that it wasn't anybody's fault about the Airbnb, and cheered me up, and then we turned the weekend around, and it was great.
That's awesome. And Age, what about you? I mean, you just told us you got a house. What else have you been up to?
Yeah, so my life is pretty boring, not gonna lie. I just work. If my YouTube going completely quiet for 7 months is any indication, I I just hang around at home and I do work, like legit. So I'm in Miami and things have unfortunately not calmed down here. So like I don't leave the house. I'm just here. But it's really fulfilling. It's really rewarding. But I wish I could go out more.
Okay. But you're doing okay for the most part, right?
Severe depression. But we won't talk about that.
Oh, Age, really? I wouldn't even ever known. You do a very good job at, highlight reeling your life, and it doesn't seem that way.
I won't take too much time to talk about the economy right now, but at least in my profession, there have been a lot of layoffs. It's a very scary time to be alive. And don't mind me, I just blew $800 on black milk, but all of that constantly on my mind. Merch is not cheap, right?
Right.
You gotta have something
never
to supplant
ending.
that. It's never ending. You're so right.
Now, especially
Mhm.
now. And honestly, I truly appreciate you saying that, because I was talking about in our last podcast, inflation is real. The economy is not in a good place right now, and we are all making choices or having to deal with circumstances that are beyond our control. And sometimes, indulging in our quirks, Sailor Moon being one of mine, is a way to kind of relieve that stress. So I don't, so I try to make it a point to encourage people, like, we're all going through something, we're all dealing with something, it's okay. And if you can splurge on yourself, buy yourself a coffee, treat yourself to something. If you get you on some Klarna, get you a Sailor Moon piece of Sailor Moon merch, it's okay.
And I don't think people realize, just how much, this buying the Sailor Moon Hot Topic t-shirt, grabbing a Sailor Moon figure, whatever it may be, how much it actually does really cheer people up. I know it's materialistic, and, a lot of us want to, go gravitate away from that. But let's be real, we're collectors. We're very materialistic, and it does bring us so much joy. And I'm glad it does for a lot of people. Like just that little thing, just that little shopping spree.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's why we have retail therapy as a term.
Yes, absolutely. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that with us. And I definitely appreciate you, like, even through the midst of adversity, you and Brooke have been positive forces in the community.
We were talking about this before, Grace, and
Yes.
it's been tough.
Yes.
People definitely are coming at me left and right, trying to get me, trying to bait me. And I ain't there for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Age, I have to thank you because I could not tell you the anxiety that I had when we were talking about SG5, because the fan reaction has been adverse for me. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going head to head with Sailor Tortilla on Twitter. This is not what it's supposed like. This is not a battle. I respect you. I love you. Like this, it's just a difference of opinion. I promise. Like it was like, literally, I was telling Z and Lumi, I was like, oh gosh, I hope she's not offended. Like I hope I'm not like crossing a line here about SG5.
No, music and fun are something that people take very seriously, right? When you
Right.
love a music artist, you love a song, it means a lot to you. Like you get really defensive about that. So like, please come at me. It's free engagement. Like you're nice. I'll talk to you any day.
Screaming, giving
And-
full of come at me, bro
Right.
energy.
And it was just, and honestly, I love your opinion on it because it was like, it is an insult when you can just take like the Sailor Moon IP and just slap it on something and be like, this is official Sailor Moon stuff, and it's like that is an insult to the fans and the franchise when it seems like a haphazard choice, like you just like, oh, this seems like a good idea, do it.
I'll be real. I haven't really watched any of it. I'm just like, this isn't Sailor Moon enough for me. I mean, they can do their
Right.
thing, but like,
Right.
it's not my thing.
Yeah. And for me, it was like I literally like was telling Z and Lumi like when SG5 first announced, I literally called up my best friend and I was like, guess what? We get SG5 while you have BTS. Ha ha! Like like that's like I'm like, you have BTS. I just got my BTS. It's called SG5, and I'm going to be going to Allegiant Stadium, and Sailor Tortilla is going to be there, and Ochiba Wolf is going to be there, and we're going to be jamming out to SG5, and it's going to be sold out, and we're going to beat BTS. And she's like, get off my phone. Like, leave me alone.
I mean, if I got free tickets, I'll go.
But it was like, for me, it was just an experience. It was a mainstream experience that I was like fantasizing in my head. Like, it's going to be this big, huge thing. It's going to blow K-pop and J-pop out of the water, and Sailor Moon's going to get the respect it deserves. Like, Sailor Moon's going to have some respect on her name, finally, in the mainstream community, because people just like to poo-poo on it because they have this one like lens about what Sailor Moon is. So, sorry, that's just me.
We're all gonna turn into SG5 fans when like it's on mainstream radio. We're gonna be like, that's for Sailor Moon.
Right.
I'm still thinking about you saying if I get free tickets. See, the operative word is free, so I feel like it hasn't won us all over yet. But
yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry, Brooke, but I was thinking somebody told me that they were primarily dancers. So maybe I just had the wrong impression.
To be honest, I've never really looked into them other than writing a short article in Sailor Moon Fan Network when they were at Anime Expo last year. So like, I don't know a lot. I don't know enough to form an opinion. Let's put it that way.
Right. I agree. And, they just released their song, and it's like, and I don't even feel like they're capitalizing on, the hype, the reaction, stuff like that. Like, it's like, it seems very standard fare now where they're releasing their rehearsal videos, stuff like that. It's like, okay, you release Fire Truck, you need to, hit while the iron's hot. Like, let's go. Like, so yeah. Z, I know you had some thunderstorms last night, so I know you're pretty tired, but how are you doing?
I mean, aside from that, I'm pretty Gucci. I finished a commission, so that's fun. And I've been working on Princess Sailor Moon. But aside from that, I'm pretty A-okay.
I know Princess Sailor Moon has been quite the task for you. How's that going?
Oh, Jesus, Lord Almighty. Gosh. I'm technically at the final stages, which is just ordering and apparently doing beading on the hip roll, which, gotta love beading. I've only done it once, and it was for Princess Serenity, and that was a task times 50. But I'm in the final stages of just putting all the pearls everywhere, making her little accessories. I gotta make her little ring, finish up the choker, stuff like that. I gotta get a new wig for her. And then she should be good to go after all of that is said and done. I've gotten all the hard stuff out the way, like making the bow tails and that hemline. That hemline, good gracious.
Are you making it for a convention?
I am. I might compete with it. I'm not sure yet. I'm not fully swayed on competing with it, but hopefully she will be debuted at MomoCon.
MomoCon. Oh, that's so
Yes.
cool. I hope I get to see pictures. That would be awesome. Take lots of pictures.
Yeah,
will.
I love PGSM, so I hear Princess Sailor Moon and my ear perked up. I'm like, oh,
You like
I'm so
PTSD?
geeked.
love.
Oh.
I am so geeked for this cosplay because Princess Sailor Moon is one of my favorite characters, and this is the second cosplay that Z has done that is of one of my favorite characters. She did Olivia Pope from Scandal. When I tell you,
Holy
I was
Fritchie.
so geeked over Olivia Pope. Like, I'm like literally, I'm tagging Kerry Washington. I'm sharing it on all my social media. Like, that's my friend. She's doing Olivia Pope. I'm so excited.
I had no clue what I was doing. I'm like, geez, is this good enough? Am I embodying the character well enough?
And speaking of cosplay, we were just talking about Brooke's Cosmic Heart chest protector piece that she was working on, and it was gorgeous. I was like, oh my gosh. And her Sailor Jupiter is like chef's kiss.
Your Jupiter
thank
is
you, guys.
everything to me. I hope you know that. Like, your Jupiter
Thank you
looks so freaking good. I have to know. What patterns are you using for your chest armor? Because that is clean as fudge.
My own! I actually
Your
made that
own?
one myself after lots of trial and error. I did a few stories when I was working on it that maybe you missed, but like I showed you like the drawing that I do. It's based off just a hand drawing that to me what I think of the chest armor for Sailor Moon and how I think they should be portrayed. Because it's all about interpretation of this. We really don't know what the Sailor Guardians, Fukus, are made of, what they're supposed to look like in real life. So to me, that's just my interpretation, and just created that pattern all on my own.
Idiots. Pattern drafting is not easy. As someone that has made an entire Mew Fuku from scratch, making patterns is not easy. So I applaud you.
I
for
applaud
doing
you for making a
that.
Mew costume. Those look even extra hard. I'm like, I can't even make an Eternal Fuku. Like, that's where I draw the line.
Turtles.
What a-
That's a whole
And that's a
thing.
cool fun fact. I had no idea that you did that from scratch. Like, it's
That's
so
amazing.
clean and professional looking. Like, I would have assumed.
I didn't show you guys all the late night stay up, the one that I had to completely scrap because it didn't fit right. I mean, there's a
That's
lot
a
of
move.
trial and error for sure, but that's
That's such a
cosplay.
move.
That's cosplay.
Gosh, and you know what just
Truly.
flashed through my head is that scene from Sailor Moon R when Ray was working on that song for the festival. I just imagine Brooke in that scenario where she's just like falling asleep at the desk with a pencil in her hand, like
Yup.
drawing.
Tears running down my face. Yeah.
Felt.
So Lumi, how are you feeling? I know you had like a little accident walking the dog. Are you okay? Are you feeling better?
I guess the answer is no.
Oh, Lumi. Lumi.
Lumi!
She said she was tired. I hope she didn't fall asleep.
Oh no, Lumi! Hold on, let me throw a rose.
I wonder if she's on mute by accident.
No, she's unmuted. I don't know anymore. I can't tell.
Oh no,
Lumi, can you hear me?
Lumi!
I'm sorry, I did fall asleep.
Do you want to sit this out and get some rest?
Sleep in.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry.
No, friend.
If you're
It's
sleepy, you should get
okay.
some sleep. It's fine
You
if you want to
should.
sit this out.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
Go get some sleep.
Go get some sleep.
Go get some sleep.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hi, Lumi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Poor thing.
Oh,
I feel like we have to have Lumi because she's part of the team. She's the hosting team.
I know. Teamwork makes the dream
Do
work.
we need to reschedule or do you want to move forward, Grayson?
No, we can move forward. I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time and energy, and it's fine. This
Honestly,
happened.
Saturday mornings I'm free. It's every single one because my husband usually works Saturdays and I'm already up. So I mean, if we wanted to do it like next Saturday, I'm good too. If you guys really needed Lumi here, I don't know. I just know like the hosting, gang. You gotta have everybody.
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's fine. If Z, what do you think?
Oh goodness. I don't know. I think we're Gucci.
I think we're okay. Yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Y'all are the boss, so if we're going, we're going.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and move forward.
I'll probably just check in with her later. But she just needs some sleepy stuff.
She just needs some sleep. That's all.
Yeah. She been working
and typical Usagi fashion, she forgot earlier that we had an episode like earlier this week. So so yeah, I feel like she's sometimes the main character, the host of this podcast, because she tends to have like these main character Usagi moments where it's just like, can the show go on without Usagi? We don't know.
That's why I was like, y'all sure? Just make sure we're good.
No, we'll be okay. So let's go ahead and move forward. At least she's okay. That's what's important. Mm-hmm. She's okay, and I'm glad that she's listening to her body and her mind. It's like, okay, I need to take this moment to rest.
Important.
And I think that's also an important message to our listeners as well, where it's like, if you need to take that time for yourself, please do. If you need to rest, please do. Like, it's okay to take a break from whatever it is that you're doing, especially if you're feeling tired or you're feeling mentally exhausted. So definitely.
Absolutely.
So.
I just had this discussion on my live yesterday. I was just saying, like, your mind and your body will tell you when you need to rest, and you got to listen to it, especially as you get older. It becomes very important.
Absolutely.
And and that's how you end up with 7 months of no YouTube videos, because I sure listened.
Age, I feel like YouTube has, I don't know, with Instagram Reels and TikTok, it's just hard to continue on with YouTube as well.
Yeah, if you want to talk about social media, it's interesting that the different platforms last year, like I want to say from 2021 into 2022, they all tried to emulate TikTok. YouTube came out with Shorts. Instagram started paying us for Reels. And, there was kind of this overload of editing. Well, okay, now I've got to make a 20-minute video for YouTube, but I need to make a 3-minute version for this other platform. And it was really an overload. I'm so glad that Instagram is going back to promoting actual images so that we can go back and focus on long form video.
Yeah, because what ended up happening was I prioritized Instagram, because Instagram, you only had a 28-day window to make money off of those reels that you were like promoted to like post all the time. And then that, of course, put everything else on the back burner because you had to focus on Instagram, which ironically was paying me more than YouTube anyway. So why would I focus on, hours of editing a YouTube video versus a minute-long Instagram video that takes me 10 minutes?
And this is very interesting to hear because you guys make it look so seamless. Like you could not, like there's no way I could have known any of that. And I don't, and even like with this podcast and my TikTok, like I don't do this for money at all. So it's like, I don't have those pressures or those deadlines. So it's very interesting to hear and how overwhelming it can be being a content creator.
We are very much incentivized to make certain kind of content. Absolutely, when you're getting paid, and especially if you do it for a living. Like I personally, this is my job now, so I am very focused on how I can make the most money and how I can continue on doing this as my full-time job.
That's an excellent point to make, and I'm glad that you're sharing that with us, because I think it is an aspiration for a lot of people to be a full-time content creator. But I also think that when you see the polished version of Sailor Tortilla and Ochiba Wolf on like social media, you don't see the behind-the-scenes chaos that you have to go through to get that final product. Like it doesn't make itself. Like toiling away at the computer and editing and all that. So
it's 10 hours a day at my computer, and it's exhausting. By the time the weekend comes around, I'm like, Kurt, which is my husband, please take me outside into the world.
Oh my gosh. So yes, thank you for sharing that with our listeners, because I'm pretty sure they're just like, and even me, I'm like, I don't see how you guys do it. Like it's especially and maybe this is a good question to ask, but it's like, do you also, like, aside from the social media aspects and the deadlines and stuff like that, and having to cater to certain content, do you also get a lot of fan demand when it comes to your content?
Oh, yeah, big time. So I get a lot of requests to talk about the anime itself when, I'm always jealous of Ochi because I got a full-time job outside of this thing. So I get frustrated. I like drop social medias. And then all these
I
requests.
feel like you could be a full-time content creator, though. Is that ever going to be like, is that a goal of
Absolutely
yours?
not. No, absolutely not. Like, as much as I love social media, I do it professionally for a lot more money. So,
Yeah, I
like,
feel
YouTube could never compare.
Are you the breadwinner in your family? Is that why you have to like keep it? Because I feel like you do make a lot of money. Like we couldn't say, Kurt, quit your job to be a content creator. We would suffer. He's the breadwinner, obviously. But like, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, I would not have a house if I didn't have that job. So it's, and not to be too negative, the thing is that it's a lot of work emotionally too. It's not just about the hours. It's about like, okay, I have to be in the right headspace. I can't open my toy until I set up my camera. Do you know how frustrating it is to have a brand new figure sitting in your house for a week and you can't open it because your camera's not ready? It's so frustrating.
It has to be, organic. You have to have your reactions be real.
Couldn't be me. No. I appreciate you two so much. And I love the contrast and comparison between the two of you, because there are times when I get so excited about getting stuff, like Sailor Moon stuff, and I'm ripping the box open and I'm like, oh, I was supposed to go live with this. Or, oh, I meant to open this with my Discord.
And that's how we feel. We're like, we want to right now, because it's still exciting for us when we get a new item that we had pre-ordered months and months ago. But you know what, Grayson, we should also get back and we can talk all about social media. Like we can
absolutely
debunk all the rumors and like get down and dirty with it, and really the dark side is, like I like to call it, of social media that nobody really talks about. Like my socials, for the most part, our highlight reels, you're only seeing the good stuff that I want you to see. And behind the scenes, and I do kind of talk about this, like on my stories, sometimes on my lives on YouTube, on, how it does affect me. And I have to tell people, I'm not in the right space right now. I've got to take a break, and I am going through it. Like I am real with people as far as that goes, just to kind of let people know who want to, what's going on.
Right. I would love to continue that discussion, even if it's like on a live or something like that. But before we move on, I just want to kind of like, in light of this little conversation we had in regards to social media, how can we as supporters of Sailor Tortilla and Ochiba Wolf Sailor Moon Fan Network, how can we continue to support you and encourage you guys in this work?
Go Age, you go first.
I mean, it's just follow and subscribe. I don't have any of those like Patreon or any of those things, so I just appreciate a comment. What?
When you said I don't have Patreon, I was just like, I'm banned from Patreon for something apparently I did in 2012. I complained about somebody and they banned me for life.
Oh gosh.
Oh no.
I know, so I'm like, well, that's never gonna be a thing for me either. But also, doesn't it seem like a lot more work if you would have it? Like, you see what the people with Patreons have to do to cater to those people who pay monthly for you. Like, you would feel extra pressure, right?
Yeah, that's so true. That's what stops me. I mean, if anything, it'd be like $1 for an internet hug and nothing more. Like YouTube has subscriptions now, Instagram has subscriptions now, and they all pay out at different rates. I think YouTube gives you about 50% of what your subscribers pay. Instagram, I think, gives you 100%, but they may have lowered that to 70% in 2023. So if you want to support any creator, I believe that the platform where they make the most money, like directly from your subscription, I think is actually YouTube right now.
Yeah, and you can pick your price too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I think I make it a point to try to support like artists that do like Etsy people that do a lot of Sailor Moon, because before the Sailor Moon merch boom, like Etsy and small time creators were keeping this fandom alive with some of their work and when it comes to Sailor Moon merchandise and stuff like that. So definitely try to support them that way. And when I hear you guys talk about subscribing on YouTube and stuff like that, that encourages, I want my money to go towards those type of creators, because like I was saying this earlier, like you guys are the blood in the veins that keep the franchise alive. So I don't want you guys to feel like you're not. Like, I don't ever want you to feel like you're unsupported, or I don't ever want you to feel discouraged. And I want you to know that we're in your corner. We support you. We love you, and we trust and believe. You guys are living my dream as far as owning all the merch. I don't want to do what you guys do. I have a full-time job myself. I work in human services for the government here in Las Vegas. I work 10 hours, 10-hour days, literally helping people on a day-to-day basis. I can't even imagine, like, if I had Asia's or Brooke's workload when it comes to Sailor Moon merch, I would not have the mental capacity to do any of that. So I definitely appreciate you guys being in this space and being the voice for this niche of Sailor Moon content, especially when it comes to merchandise, because it is hard to find, it is expensive, and sometimes, you know, even though we're not able to afford a lot of stuff, we can live vicariously through you guys and the merchandise that you guys are able to purchase. I definitely appreciate you in that respect.
We love that. Thank you. Those words are really nice and nice to hear that our hard work, you know, it pays off. You know, just hearing that. I mean, you don't even have to support us, you know, with actual money. You know, just watching our content, sharing our content, leaving a comment on our content. And that's what I tell people too. Like you don't have the extra money, but you still want to support what we do. Just share, comment, and like all of our stuff as much as possible. And that really, really means a lot to us in the end.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get back on track. Things got a little off the rails, but you know, I love the organicness of the conversation. Like we're not just like structured into the talking points, like we're able to like segue into different topics like that. So I definitely appreciate that. But you guys are both longtime Sailor Moon fans, so I want to know what the franchise means to you and how you relate to the franchise. Like, you know, how'd you get into it? Like, we were talking about this before we started recording, but it's like I'm 38. Sailor Moon has been like a cornerstone in my life for like what seems ever. So I kind of want to get your guys' take on the franchise, what it means to you, how you started, and all that. So, Age, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so it looks like we're all about the same age. I'm turning 35 this year, and I got into the franchise in 1995. At the time, KB Toys was the only place where you could get toys. But in terms of the show and what it displayed, essentially, you know, I was a little girl in the 90s, and cartoons were Rugrats. No shade on Rugrats. I love Rugrats. Hashtag Angelica's the best. But Sailor Moon had an element of romance and drama akin to more like a telenovela, which, you know, for Latinos like myself, there are telenovelas for children, and that stuff it's delicious. I loved watching Rei date Mamoru and Usagi watch from the sidelines. Like, you don't see that in Rugrats. You don't see that in Doug. So for me, it was almost a maturity kind of thing. Like I saw the show and I was like, oh, this is where I want to be. I want to be dating boys. But it was also the team aspect. I love Power Rangers before I love Sailor Moon. And it's basically the same. It's basically the same. same toy manufacturer, same general concept about teamwork and learning to work together, even though you have vastly different personalities. I think that shaped me growing up. I was the type of kid that I'd see an introverted kid and I'd just go over and talk to them because I'd be like, oh, you're like Amy. And then, of course, they didn't want to talk to me because I was weird. But I think it had really good values that I resonated with as a kid. And I just really loved the drama.
The drama. I love the honesty, Abe.
Yes.
I love the honesty.
How about you, Brett?
I guess mine's a little bit darker. So I can't tell you the date. I have a very, very bad memory, and my childhood wasn't the greatest, so I've really compartmentalized a lot of things and kind of have, got rid of that in my brain. I try not to think about it, but like for me, Sailor Moon was like the light in my darkness. As a kid, I had like a lot of mental issues as far as thinking I wasn't normal enough for my family. I felt like I didn't fit in a lot of times. I was a weird kid that liked cartoons, and I was called a weirdo all the time, even by my own parents. But Sailor Moon really just honestly made me happy. I really admired like the friendships that the girls had, the loyalty, the acceptance of how Usangi and her friends were all into different things, and they all supported and cared for one another. Like the friendships to me was like something that, you know, I longed for. So like a lot of us, Sailor Moon really helped like shape that a lot of our lives and showed us what great friendships can be, great female friendships for one thing. So yeah, like the franchise means everything to me. It's given me a life I've never thought I'd have. It's like wild, and I'm sure H can relate.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I got my first job in my field because of my YouTube. Crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think I remember you mentioning that to me a long time ago. Like you were like helping me trying to find a job when I was needing one, and the time that I lost my actual, and I'm doing air quotes, real kind of job. And you're like, you can totally, you know, work in social media. That's how I got my job, and that's so cool. You know, Sailor Moon can bring us these opportunities that we didn't think we could get from a cartoon.
Yeah, and I feel like we're living the values of the show. You know, reaching out, helping each other. Like, we've never met in person, but we've talked a whole bunch. Like, I love that kind of stuff.
The community in general is really great, and I think like the basis of it, the foundation is solid. The bones are good.
Absolutely, and I think you know, I could definitely relate to you know, the dark. It's like, as much as I love Sailor Moon, and it is like I say, is a literal cornerstone in my life. Like the majority of my teenage years, well into college, was, you know, basically there was some aspect of Sailor Moon involved in that, and if I could describe it like in a like one or two words, it would be like solitary joy. Like it was something that brought me a lot of joy and happiness, but it also brought a lot of like solitude, because I was the only one in my family and my friend circles that were enjoying this particular show and these characters. Like,
I
it
agree
wasn't
with you. I
something
feel
that
like
I
back
shared with
then,
others.
it felt like you were the only one into it. Like there
Yes.
wasn't a lot of friendships revolving like in person, you know, because this was of
Right.
course, you know, before the internet was like,
Right.
you know, huge. So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, so when I was like on Twitter, like recently, I have been sharing like some of my like memories, and like when I think back, it was like literally just me standing alone in a store in Chinatown, looking at playing cards and looking at videotapes, and it was like wishing that I had someone that had similar interests, like especially in Sailor Moon, to be able to share that with. So it was really cool to be able to like go back and share those moments back on Twitter. But it's like looking back on it, I was like, I was by myself enjoying this on my own. So it was like, you know, it was a very, I wouldn't say it's a dark period, but it's like definitely like a dark gray, like, you know, very very lonely, like, you know, ostracized, ridiculed, just for being like perceived as different. I was just like everybody else, but it was just like, because I was the only one that liked this particular thing, I was basically the outsider and no one could really understand it. So it's like, even though I do have friends, you know, and even like in my adult life, I still like tend to share this experience with people online or people in the community, because, you know, they don't really have it. And like, they know what it is, they know what it's about, but it's like the level of fandom isn't there. They have their own fandoms that they're into, which is perfectly fine. And I think as you know, it's like, it's really, I've getting into a space right now where I'm getting more comfortable talking about it and showing off my merchandise. That, you know, my cubicle is covered. Like, I have my statues and my compacts on a shelf. I got pictures everywhere, and people are like, "Are you the guy with the Sailor Moon desk?" Yes, that's me. I like Sailor Moon.
You're like, I own that title.
Right.
Yeah, and not to speak for you, but I would like to hear your perspective. I feel like, and I hear this a lot, that being a fan of Sailor Moon who happens to be a boy in the 90s was a lot more difficult than being a girl.
Being a boy and and basically being a boy liking Sailor Moon, and then being identified as queer because I liked Sailor Moon as a boy. And even like before I even identified as queer myself, people were already pushing those labels on me because I like Sailor Moon. So
they put you in a box, and you're like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, it was very biased, very gender bias, where it's like, if you're a boy, you like Dragon Ball Z. You can't like Sailor Moon. And it was just like, Dragon Ball takes forever to finish one battle. So
Truth.
I'm like, I get more out of a Sailor Moon episode than I will out of a Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball, but at the same time, it's like, when I got home after school, 4 o'clock, it was Sailor Moon time. And I was not, I watched Sailor Moon before I could even get to Dragon Ball. So it's like, what do you want from me?
There was
But yeah.
definitely some pressures back then, that
Mhm.
Sailor Moon was just a girls show. And I
Yes.
know, people, in the, gay people and also straight people, like, they were just like, they don't want to say anything, just because people would label them a certain way
Right.
if they, said that they liked it.
I was very quiet about it, but I was such a nerd. I was such a nerd as a kid, because when I switched high schools, and this is how I found my best friend. Like the one and only other person that I shared Sailor Moon with was my best friend Brent, and I literally moved around a lot as a kid, so that didn't help with my social anxiety. And so that solitude and moving around a lot, and having to deal with new people all the time.
Yeah, no roots.
And I got to this English class, and I had to do a last-minute book report. And me being my nerdy self, I did a book report on Sailor Moon. I was just getting into the Japanese version, so I'm like, it's called Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon. They're like, isn't that a kid's show? Like, I totally embarrassed myself.
Do you want to hear a terrible story? Very similar.
Yes.
When I was graduating elementary school, going to middle school, my parents tried to put me in a fancy smancy private school. They had an academic test, aced it, easy, multiple choice. You just guess. But they did a personality test. Afterwards, they came, they brought me to the school, talked to the counselor, and they asked me, who's your role model? And I'm sure they wanted George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Wonder Woman maybe. But, well, I told him Sailor Moon.
That's so
And
cute.
like, who's that? Why? And I'm like, well, she's not afraid to be herself. And at the end of the day, she still saves the world. She looks a certain way, but she still achieves what she's going to achieve. I did not get into that private school, and I'm still mad about it. Because I think Sailor Moon has done very cool things while
Yes.
also having all of her flaws, like really just that be yourself mentality. So
Right.
I went and beed myself to a public school.
Don't you feel like the times have just changed? I feel like if you would have, if it was today's times and you wrote
Oh
this
my
article,
gosh.
people would be all over it. Like, they'd
Yes.
be thinking you're a savant. Like, I mean, because this stuff is so cool now.
Right.
The times are so different.
Yes, the kids are so lucky these days to have like anime be like the the crux of popular culture right now, because it was
I hear
very
they're like
niche.
trading Pokemon cards at recess, and
Yes.
like, if I did that back in the day, which I had to be quiet about it.
Right. But yeah, I did a total book report on Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon, and that's how and honestly, with my social anxiety and my shyness as a kid, I'm surprised I even had the guts to do that. But apparently, everything happens for a reason. That's
Look
how
at
I
you
met.
now, though.
That's how I met my best friend, and he was the one person I shared all my Sailor Moon experiences with. He is now beyond Sailor Moon. Like he will indulge it for my sake, but for the most part, he is a shonen guy. He loves his JoJo and the new Trigun and stuff like that. So it's like Attack on Titan. Like he's always like. He's like, you gotta get out of your Sailor Moon bubble and watch the show. So I'm in the JoJo's now. I love, like, he's like been, like, he was like ahead of his time. He was watching Evangelion and all that. Like back in the 90s, I'm like stuck in like Toonami world, like watching Sailor Moon. Like, this is so cool. And he's like, there's more to
And
it
then
than
Gundam
that.
Wing right after.
Right. Yes. Yes. He had the Spiral Heart Moon ride from the 90s. I was so jealous of him because he had that. So, oh gosh, growing up with Sailor Moon, it was hard growing up with Sailor Moon as part of my life. But as an adult, age kind of like hit the nail on the head when she said that. But it's like we exhibit the values of Sailor Moon in our daily lives, where it's like I make a living by helping other people, and literally it's like the most Usagi thing I can do in life, where I'm like, no, it's okay, I totally understand what you're going through, and I'm here to help you and people just appreciate that in a sense where they're like, wow, like you listen to me, and even if you can't help me, I'm just glad that I was able to talk to someone about what's going on. So yes, absolutely, I agree. Z, I know you're just taking this all in.
Yeah, I'm just listening.
I know you're taking it all in, but based off like some of the things that we've been talking about, like what are your thoughts? You know, how does like do you feel some of that relation, some of that commonality with what we're talking about?
Maybe partly. I do agree with the aspect of how there's been a shift when it comes to how anime is perceived nowadays. Because like when I was getting into anime, like I was in middle school, and yeah, we would get weird little looks here and there because we would do certain things. But I would say it's a little bit more acceptable nowadays compared to back then. I think the only difference is the fandom spaces that are made and the ways in which we participate in said fandom spaces. I think that's where that kind of like, ooh, you're weird for liking this kind of stuff kind of comes into play, because everybody has different opinions, different perceptions as to how they view certain stuff. Because like when I got into Sailor Moon, I was vibing. For the most part, I was vibing. Like, I had my little live action series, and yeah, I listened to all of the songs way too much, and yeah, I knew all of the Bandai Mew dances, and yeah, I did all this kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was pretty accepting. It really wasn't until I got onto online fandom spaces that I really started to see that kind of discourse and be like, oh, you like this? Like, you like this character? Da-da-da-da-da, all that kind of stuff. I got stories. I got so many stories. But like it's cool to be able to be in the place to kind of witness that kind of shift, if that makes sense. Like it be more accepting and it be at least slightly more open, maybe not as open, but at least be a little slightly more open compared to before. And I don't know why, but I think of the Pokemon card thing. When you said Pokemon card thing, I was like, you know what? That reminds me back in 3rd grade. I used to trade Pokemon cards. Like, and granted, that was years and years ago, and y'all are way older than me. but just to even think, you're welcome. But just thinking of how, like, even then, like, granted, I was younger, and y'all were older than me. Just being able to still witness that little shift. Like, granted, we had to, go in the playground, and we had to go in our little corner and do our thing. But at least for the most part, it was accepted.
Right.
That's wild for you to say that.
I know. I'm like, my mind is
when
blown.
I was at school, like weirdos.
Oh yes, like if anything, like I would get weird looks because I like Pokemon, because Pokemon was deemed a boy thing. But I love my little cards, and I loved Ash Ketchum and all that fun stuff. So I feel like that's where that aspect comes in. But like,
that's wild. You said that it was like a boy thing for you when you went to school.
Oh, yes.
So like there was some gender bias there as well.
Oh heck yes, with a lot of shows that I would partake in as a kid, like Ben 10 and all that. No, that was dude stuff. Why are you watching dude shows? Because I love Ben 10 and I think it's great. And he's got an Omnitrix. Why do you know this much information? You're a girl. Da-da-da-da.
Oh man,
I
crazy
like it.
that you still experience that too. Like it's just now getting better and better, right?
Right.
Oh yes.
And I have to commend you, Z, because you have this unabashed sense of self that I wish I had, especially growing up. And maybe I'm reaching here, but you're also a band kid, right?
Oh yes, I am unapologetically a band nerd, and I did theater for a hot minute, so I technically am a theater kid too.
Right. So I think that, with that type of background and theater background, I also think, I think it's like one of the things where it's like you don't really have the room to be self-conscious, or you don't let your self-consciousness show. And I think that is like, it's definitely takes a lot of courage to be that way. I think, it's, I feel like I was hindered in that sense where it's like, and I noticed this a lot where it's like, liking Sailor Moon, like I didn't think anything was wrong with it until somebody told me something was wrong with it. Mm-hmm. Like, like when I watched when I watched Sailor Moon for the first time outside of the Geek Dub, I had bought this Cantonese Supers episode, and I was watching it, and I didn't think anything of it. But because I had, like this innocence lens at looking at it, but it wasn't until like I was watching like the S movie that I realized that there are body lines in their transformation scenes, and Deke had edited those out, but because I didn't deem anything wrong with it until someone was like, they're naked. Did you know that they're naked? Like, I didn't, like, it didn't even like dawn on me to even think in that way until somebody pointed it out to me. And so I think it's like, sometimes I feel like our innocence is tainted in such a way where it's like we're looking at it in one way, we see it one way. Like, it's so weird. And I'm very mindful of some of the Sailor Moon content that I am consuming because people get like a little bit too overzealous with their interpretation of some of the moments in Sailor Moon, where it's like, it's like, especially if they're seeing it for the first time, like it's like, oh, and they're like, oh, I didn't think of it like that back then, but that's different. That's a different way to look at it. Like, oh no, that wasn't, and I'm thinking to myself like that wasn't the intent, but it's like not, but also trying to get out of that space where I feel like I have to defend Sailor Moon. Like, you're allowed to have your own interpretation of what this franchise is and what you think is cringe or what have you, and not letting that take away the joy that I feel for Sailor Moon. And so I think it's like, trying to like be, like Brooke said, like be very conscious about how I am engaging in this space, and also not letting other people's opinions or negativity affect the joy that I have for this fandom.
I'm just fascinated that this got biblical for a second. Like, they didn't know they were naked until they knew they were naked. Like, wow.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like we all went through those stages, though. Like,
yes.
From someone transitioning, from the only version we knew at the time, which was the Deke version, to the,
right.
The uncut Japanese true right. version of it. Like, it's wild. We all went through this. Like, whoa, there's actually this. Oh, they cut this out. Oh, his name is actually this. Oh, that's actually a man.
Right. It's like they died. Oh, wait.
It's also
they
interesting.
were captured by the Negaverse.
Ooh, they're captured. But it's also interesting to see what people noticed about the original too. Like, for you, it was, just the transformations. There was
right.
editing. Mm-hmm. For me, it was Mamoru's voice was so deep. I just, it like took me out of it because I was 12. I was like, why is this a grown man?
Oh, gosh. I think what got me, it's funny because, and I actually was tweeting about this before we started recording today, was when I watched that Cantonese version, I mistook it for the Japanese version. I didn't know the difference. So that it took me out of it because I didn't really understand. There was no subtitles on this tape. It was from Chinatown, so I had no idea what was going on. So I'm really, even some of the playing cards that I had bought back then, so much stuff was out of context for me. And I'm literally making up stuff as I go because I'm like, oh, there's this picture of, there's Andrew and there's Lita and then there's this little girl next to them. They had a daughter. Perfect. So not having access to the internet in such a way where it was to get reliable information from. And when I saw I officially saw the Japanese version when I bought the movies, the Pioneer subs.
From Suncoast? That's
yes,
how I discovered it too.
Yes.
Like these $40 VHS.
Yes, I bought all three of them. I bought all three of them and I popped it in. I'm like, oh, wait, this isn't English. Oh, this is very interesting.
That's the story I tell everybody, that is when I felt like I was gaslighted by Deke, and I was like, I have a vendetta against Deke now because I've been lied to. Like, I have a different experience. A lot of people are like,
childhood's a lie.
Yes, like that's how I felt. Like, I felt so betrayed. Like, a lot of people, think about the Deke version, that's what they grew up with, and so did I, but they feel like such warm nostalgia for it, and I feel straight up, and maybe this is how I was raised because I was gaslighted almost my whole life by certain family members, but like I feel like that that triggered, like Deke just triggers me now.
it like watching those Japanese subs for the first time, it made everything click, because honestly, as a Deke fan back then, you could not tell me that makeup was the stupidest thing you ever heard of in your life until I heard Kotono Mitsuishi say it for the first time in the Sailor Moon S movie, and I was
And then
like,
you're like,
that
poetry.
makes so much sense. I can see the light now. I have converted to it was like,
Oh my
and
god,
the
I love it how it's like a religion. I have converted.
I have converted to the Japanese version of Sailor Moon. Like, it was like, and the fact that I was like, they said it, it's Romanji. I understand that. But for me, I was like, they're talking in English. It's English.
Such a crazy wake-up call when we all
Right.
discovered that. Like, I had so much feelings, and I feel like I'm like alone in a lot of these feelings just from what I've seen on the internet, and I'm just like,
Yeah, it was like such like, as a deep, like, literally when I was those playing cards that I have, I was saying like that's the first time I saw Super Sailor Moon and the Cosmic Heart Compact, and I had no idea what these were, and I was looking it up, and I saw a Moon Cosmic Heart makeup for the first time, and I was like, that is the stupidest transformation I've ever heard of in my life. It's my favorite, by the way. It's my favorite.
and now it's your favorite. I love it.
It's my favorite. It's
you
my
have
favorite. But it
evolved.
was like, but being a Deke fan, I was like, it doesn't make sense because she said Cosmic Moon Power for her ultimate Crescent Moon Wand attack. So I was
gonna
like, that doesn't make sense.
Where were you in the Deke version when you discovered the Pioneer movies? Because I feel like I was like on like the second season, and then I jumped from, you know, the S movie to Super's movie, and I was like, who? What? There's Outer Sailor Guardians? Like, what the heck?
So
Yeah, that's
from-
because of the release order.
Yes. So for me, so literally when you're talking about like literally being like, it was like a secret drug deal handshake getting this stuff. So literally, like, I gave my friend $20 and he gave me a deck of Sailor Moon cards. And this was before the 17 lost episodes on Toonami first aired. It was the first time I saw Super Sailor Moon, Super Sailor Chibi Moon, the Eternal Sailor Moon, the Super Sailor Soldiers, the Starlights, the Outers, like, and I was like, literally, like, dropped on my head. I was like, what is this? Like,
We
there's
woke
no,
now.
yeah, it was like, the kid that sold me those cards had no clue either. He was like, oh yeah, those 3 chicks in the black suit, those are the Sailor lesbians. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I think they're dominatrix or something like that. And I'm like, we're in 6th grade. How do you know this?
We're in 6th grade. How did you know? I love that.
Yeah, so
That should be the title of this episode.
right. So yeah, I did not know who Uranus and Neptune were. I didn't know who the Starlights were. I saw Chibi, didn't know who she was. I was like, oh, Sailor Moon had another kid. Like, listen, totally out of context, and no one to share this with, no one to ask questions about. The internet, like, and like I said, when it goes on the internet, and I'm like looking this stuff up, I'm like, literally thought it was the dumbest thing ever, like Moon Cosmic Power, and I literally was like going into my little, I don't even know what the word software was in 1998, but I was literally like making up my own like Deke versions of, like, I was like, oh, it looks like a crown, so I'll call it Moon Royal Power. Like, that makes more sense in the Deke universe. I was such a nerd. Don't judge me.
No, but all of this really just illustrates that fans nowadays have it really good. They don't
Yes.
have to go, who is this character? They just start on episode 1 or they
Mhm.
start on manga volume 1. And I mean, it's a great thing, but the way we suffered, like, I remember, do you guys remember going to shrines, like a Sailor Mars
Yes.
website? Only
Yes.
Sailor Mars.
Yep,
Yes.
yep. Printing out
they-
all those pictures that they
GeoCities and
found.
Angel Fire and all of that.
So many fan sites. Those were the good Sailor Moon fan site days.
Yes, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, the advent of the technological age and streaming services where this stuff is easier to access. But what gets me is that you have all this access and you still get it wrong.
Same. I try to be really
Grayson-
nice about it, though.
Yeah, Grayson,
Yes.
I will post a video about whatever items, explicitly say where it's from, how I got it, and I still get asked 30 times, where did you get this? How can I get this? So yeah,
It's I can totally sympathize and empathize with that, because the amount of comments that I get on the Sailor Moon videos, like, it's honestly, it's very stressful at times, especially with the PGSM content. I posted a clip from the Special Act movie, and honestly, if I get one more "Where's Sailor Mars" comment, I'm gonna hate myself, because it's like, where's Sailor Mars? They forgot Sailor Mars. She's gone. Oh, she was in Tokyo Drift. That's why she wasn't there. And I was like, she had an injury. If you go to moonkitty.net, they talk about that. Like,
it's kind of like when, okay, you know, if they have like some merchandise, I don't know, like let's say they're t-shirts and there's all 5 Inner Sailor Guardians.
yeah.
And then I go to Twitter and I post 4 of them because that's all Twitter allows in the first tweet. Even though I have replied in the thread with the last one, they're all still like, "Where's Venus? You forgot Venus. You forgot." No, I didn't forget it. You're just not seeing the other comment.
Once again, it's like being mindful of how you're engaging in that space, as well as being mindful of yourself in those moments where it's like, I got to a point where I realized I don't have to respond to every comment.
Exactly, and I'm finally getting to that point too. It's
Yeah.
like if they're asking a question that is obviously answered in the video or maybe in
Yes.
another comment, it's like you don't have to reply to that. Don't waste your time on it. Just let
Right.
them say it, and they can figure it out later on their own if they want.
Exactly. Given that we are avid Sailor Moon fans, and Zia and I get this question all the time, we answer it all the time. And I'm pretty sure you guys get this question too, but who is your favorite Senshi?
You want me to jump in?
I was
Yes.
good. Yeah, I was gonna let you go first.
So I think me and Ochi have the same one. It's usually Sailor Jupiter for me, but I flip-flop. I'm dangerous. Like, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, you know what? Sailor Mars really tickles my pickle. And it's also like, what Sailor Senshi are you does not necessarily correspond to which one you like.
Right.
Because I feel like Sailor Mercury all the
Mhm.
time. So it's usually Sailor Jupiter, but it's mostly because she's the hottest one.
That's valid. Totally valid. Yes.
like,
you
it's
have no
just the
arguments
truth.
here.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, no, you're right. When you're right, you're right.
We concur.
We can. No one's protesting this.
Right. Like we unanimously, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say she's my favorite as well. But in my case, it's because I just relate to her the most. Although I got a shocking revelation over the Comic-Con weekend. One of my best friends, Lonnie, and we were kind of just going at it, just an organic conversation between the two of us, and we got called Usagi and Minako, me being Minako. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so we kind of had a conversation with the people that we were with, so I've been told I'm kind of like a Minako now. I do get a lot of phrases and words mixed up in my brain all the time like she does. And so, yeah, that's kind of like a recent revelation. I was like, okay, as far as like who we are like, but like my favorite still stands. Sailor Moon and Sailor Jupiter are like my favorite characters, but honestly, I feel like I love every single Sailor Moon character. I feel like Naoko nailed it on writing every character so interestingly. Like, I love them all.
Yeah, I think she has a good, it's so hard to single out a single character because the ensemble is great. Like, the dynamic between the group is great.
It's great. Like, I feel like there really aren't that many weak characters. I know a lot of
No.
people will argue that, you know, Sailor Mercury Ami is weak, but like, I feel like she's a strong character, and
She is.
she's so needed on the team, you know, as a
And
brainiac. And
I agree.
yeah,
And I think PGSM really like highlighted Mercury's strength, because honestly, Mercury was kind of like in my periphery, but it wasn't until PGSM where she like was like, oh, she's badass. Like, I love Mercury, and so it's like I'm glad that they kind of like strengthened her character in PGSM along with like bring her up to par with everybody else. Like, it was like, because I think like sometimes the anime didn't necessarily know what to do with some of the characters. know,
Well, it's
100%.
culturally too. Did you ever hear that, Ami was the most popular guardian?
Most
in
popular
Japan?
because she's the
Yes.
most, yeah.
Because she's the most like Japanese,
Yes.
know, a very school oriented, focused on school and all of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think Chibi Moon was like a close number 2 or 3 there, because I think it's like, having that, that model-like behavior followed by the cutesy-wootsy characters,
This is the first
Yeah.
I've heard of this.
Yeah,
So,
I think it was
mind blown.
I think it was Tuxedo Unmasked, but I think Mercury was like top,
Oh yeah, they
and I
do
think
some
Chibi
great
Moon was like the
digging
second.
and research. Yes,
Yes.
they find the really underneath the surface information.
Yeah, hopefully if we keep chatting about it.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, it's interesting the way that they decided to flesh out Mercury in PGSM. No spoilers, but they do focus on her kind of internal struggle as to, being a Sailor Senshi is not really conducive to my goals to being a doctor. So I don't even think I get along with these people. And I feel like that happens at work. We
Right.
can all relate.
Mhm. I think that I think her social awkwardness spoke to the social anxiety in me as well. Her friendship with Usagi was so. She truly, like, when Usagi first befriended her, she was like, "Oh my gosh, this person likes me for who I am, and they want to be my friend, and that means so much to me." And then when Usagi was telling her that she could become a Sailor Guardian, she was like, "Oh, is that why you want to be my friend?"
Oh yeah,
And
she started
that-
questioning it. Yeah, I've seen it
Yeah.
at least up till there.
Yeah, and so it's like, I was like, oh, like, I could totally, like, relate to that. Like, it was like
It's self-doubt is what it
It's
is. And a lot of us
self-doubt,
go
yes.
through that, yeah.
yeah, it was so real. Like, the reaction I had was very visceral, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this speaks to the social anxiety. And,
Like they're only friends with you because, they get something out of it, Yeah, yeah.
right.
Totally relatable.
Yeah, and it's like, I wish, it's very hard, like, PGSM is a very, very niche iteration of Sailor Moon to get into, and you have to get past some of the awkwardness and the cringiness to get to some of those, like, real character development moments. I was trying to get my best friend to watch it, because she's only watched the Deke dub, and she only watches the Deke dub. She's a Serena girl, like, and I was like, just watch this PGSM, it's really cool and stuff like that. And she was like, no, I can't do it. They're doing ballet foo. I can't get with that.
Did you say ballet foo?
That's what they called it in the making. It's called ballet foo. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh, first time hearing that term, but it's so spot on.
So Z, you are in
Oh,
good
hi.
company because you are a Sailor Jupiter girl yourself.
I am. I love Sailor Jupiter very much. Very, very
And-
much.
And I know that, we kind of touched on the next question in this particular conversation about who your favorite Senshi is, but I know that Age was saying that she has, Sailor Mercury Ami vibes, or sometimes she feels like Sailor Mars. And Brooke, you mentioned that someone said you had Minako vibes.
Yes, which was a shock to me. And this was just last weekend, so I'm still processing this.
So, I mean, as far as, like, personality-wise, like, who do you think you are more like? Is it more like Jupiter?
Me? Yes. Definitely more like Jupiter as like, I like to be tough and I like to look cute. Like, I do a lot of heavy lifting. I love to, get buff and like just be strong. Like, that's something very important to me, is to be strong as a woman. But also I will dress up and look cute. I will put on a full face of makeup. So I feel like, that's really Makoto. Like, she wants to be strong, but also she wants to be seen as a feminine person as well. And I love a lot of the same things she does. I'm big into house plants, just tropical plants in general. When I go to Age's state, I'm like, oh my god, they have all these house plants actually living on the lawns. Like, it's a whole thing for me. But yeah, the only thing I cannot relate to Makoto is her baking. I'm a horrible baker. I will eat all the sweets. I never skip dessert. But I just can't bake. So that's about the only thing that I don't align with my girl Jupes.
And Age, can you elaborate on which Senshi fits you personality-wise?
Oh, it's Amy. It's the Introvert Alliance. I used to read a book at dinner with my family, and that was rude as shit. But I watch Amy do it all the time when her friends are just chilling and she's in the corner reading a book. So it's that. It's the desire and the pleasure in being alone. I think Amy really exemplifies that. Not so much in PGSM, but in the regular show, she's just comfortable doing her own thing. Everybody wants to read manga. Cool. I'll study for my exam. Not that I'm studying for exams, but I'm always off doing something on my own.
Oh, okay. And Z, I know you kind of have a mix, but yes, please tell us who fits you personality-wise.
Because it always changes. I feel like it
Yes.
always changes. It really does. Because like I'm a Jupiter girly. I love Jupiter so much. Primarily, I feel like I really relate to her PGSM personality the most. But I feel like others would also say I'm a mix of Usagi, because I brighten people's day and all this kind of stuff. But I think I'm also like Ami too. Like I'm very, very quiet and very reserved, and I will mind my own, and I will I could be by myself for 5 hours and I'm content. Like you don't gotta worry about me. I'm good. I'm great.
So for me,
What about you, G?
Yes. What about me? So yeah, it's and Brooke said, like, these characters are well written. The ensemble is great, so it's really hard to single out a particular favorite character. And I tend to default to Sailor Moon. Who doesn't like the main character? That tends to be my answer. I love Sailor Moon. I love the values that she represents. As far as I can't relate to the clumsiness or sleeping or the eating, but this innate sense of caring for her friends, loving her friends, and wanting to protect her friends, I think that speaks like volumes to me as far as Usagi's character is. Like, it's those mature, emotional moments that she has as Sailor Moon specifically speaks a lot to me. I think it's also defined like who I am as a person, like I definitely try to uphold those values where it's like, I want you to feel encouraged, I want you to feel supported, and I want you to feel loved, and I don't want any harm to come to you. Like, that always speaks to me. And as much as I would love to be like Usagi, like Sailor Moon, I feel like the Senshi that that represents me personality-wise is Sailor Pluto.
A queen.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
Love her.
I'm the oldest in the group.
Because I always feel like, the 90s version
Yep.
of Setsuna, we don't get to really know much about her. So,
Right.
like, when did you feel like you were most like her? Like, did it take, like, reading the manga to get a little bit better
Yes,
idea of her?
Yeah, so I think because she had such a limited exposure in the anime, I think when she first appeared in R, and every time I think about Sailor Pluto, I think about when the Senshi are leaving her and she's standing at the door by herself, and Luna was talking about how she's a solitary soldier and stuff like that, and the manga kind of elaborated on that solitary soldier personality where she loves and she cares deeply, and that's shown in her relationship with Chibiusa. So I think I am very much an introvert. I like keeping to myself. I see a lot. I have no issue spending time on my own, and I think that Sailor Pluto feels the same way. Whereas I have this duty as a solitary soldier of time and space. I have no problem sitting at my door with my phone, doom scrolling until the end of time.
Oh my god, I feel like I'm in a room. Like, I don't know, like, I'm the opposite of all three of you. Like, and I used to be an introvert, but like when I was like suppressed as a child, but like now I'm blossoming and I'm like, I just want to meet everybody. I want to be friends with everybody. Everyone,
Right.
people are so interesting. And then you guys are all
Right.
like, no, I'm cool, just being alone. I'm over here like, hiding under my hoodie, like, oh.
Right. But the one thing I do like about Sailor Pluto is like in the introvertness and the solitariness, there's this need to, or this want to be a part of something greater and bigger than myself. So I think that, even though she's okay with being solitary, she wants to be with she says she's always wanted to fight alongside Sailor Moon. She's always wanted to be with the others. So I think that spoke volumes to me too, especially as growing up as a Sailor Moon fan, where it's just like, yeah, I'm okay being in a space by myself, but I wouldn't mind having a friend or two beside me while I do it, you know. So I think that it took and honestly, it was like an epiphany for me, especially like realizing that Sailor Pluto was like me most personality-wise. So I thought that was very interesting. So it's like, honestly, I like answering that question because a lot of people, you know, like they tend to go for like popular characters or, you know, like you very rarely get like Sailor Mercury answers or, you know, Sailor Pluto answers. So I think it's really interesting. I love hearing all the different answers.
Outers, because the outers seem so cool, you know?
Right.
Just like they appear in the show. But actually, one of my best friends, her name is Kay. She was actually our Sailor Pluto at Planet Comic Con. She actually relates to Pluto too. So now I know 2 people. So cool.
That is really cool. So I have a bonus question for everyone. I thought about this last night as I was doom scrolling. What Sailor Moon scene makes you emotional? Like, if you had to think of an emotional Sailor Moon scene moment, what pops into your brain? And I'm gonna tag Z first.
No, that's not fair. Oh no. Oh my gosh.
Because there's so many that Z can pick from, but
Yes, there is.
It's
but
hard
I
to
know-
narrow it
I
down.
know
I'm
one
having
in
a hard time
particular.
thinking about it.
I have a specific one because this is one
Okay.
that to this day it still haunts me. But it's spoilers though. I will warn it's spoilers. So,
Okay.
so should I share it or not?
yes, go ahead and share. It's fine.
Well, spoilers for which one? Like, say the
Yeah.
anime, manga, PGSM.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, so
it's fine.
if anybody doesn't want to hear it going forth, she's going to give away a PGSM spoiler.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That's
It's
the
pretty
disclaimer.
big.
Here's the disclaimer.
Okay, so it's the scene where actually it's the entire episode where Minako is prepping for, you know, her surgery and stuff, and then you kind of find out that she doesn't make it, and
Oh.
it shows like the scene of if she was to give her actual goodbye, and then she fades away, and it's all the girls crying, reading her note, and Sayonara Sweet Days is playing in the background, and that's a song that I cannot listen to this day. I've never heard the full version because anytime I hear those first 3 notes, I start crying and boo-hooing.
Aw.
I'm so serious. Like I remember
Oh.
crying on my bed for like a solid 30 minutes watching that episode, and then the episode after where Usagi gets to see Mamoru again, and he's like, "You idiot! You better cry! Like you don't have to smile through all this pain." And then they changed the opening, and that had me boo-hooing even harder. So that's probably one of the saddest moments for me. Minako not making it, and just all of her friends being left, and I don't know, it just like it emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually wrecked me so
Ugh.
hard, like to the point where I'm so serious. I cannot listen to Sayonara Sweet Days. Like I will cry uncontrollably. Like I don't know why, but it just reminds me of some personal losses, and it hits different. It's so sad. Like it's so stinking sad.
Right. And I totally thought you were going for Ray's reaction to all that, so that
I was
definitely took a left turn for me. So
I was about to head on into that. Just all of it. That
Yes.
whole episode. It's just. For me, it was like another turning point in how PGSM
I was literally
is,
just
because
thinking that too.
Yep, because it's you know, it's marketed as like happy-go-lucky, friendly and stuff, and it's like, wait a minute, I signed up for a show where these girls are gonna transform and have a wonderful, fantastic time. What do you mean people are dying? What do you mean? like what? Huh? And it just declines. It just keeps getting sadder. It keeps getting sadder. But I feel like that's like one of the 2, 3, 4 turning points within that show. Like, dang, this is getting serious. Oh my goodness. Let me buckle up right quick.
Asia, I want you to answer next, but I want you to know PGSM was the first show that Z watched for Sailor Moon.
That's
can
a
you
great
imagine-
intro.
Yes, that's how I got into Sailor Moon. It's PGSM.
Well,
So
it
can
can
you
only.
imagine?
I mean, the thing is, the problem with PGSM is the way that it looks. It's not the content. So it's almost like you got to see it improve over time. Not necessarily in the writing department, but at least visually, I'm a little jealous.
I loved it.
Alrighty.
I loved it.
Yeah, I was telling her before we went live on this podcast that you don't hear that a lot. That someone got introduced to Sailor Moon because of PGSM. Like that's a rarity.
Very rare. But in terms of the saddest moment, so after watching Sailor Moon on Pluto TV for like 12 hours straight, I've come to the realization that my favorite seasons are the first 2 seasons, and maybe it's because I've seen them so many times. But for me, I cannot get over Nephilite's death, the voice acting in Japanese for Naru when she cries.
So
Because,
sad.
like, you know, I'm a grown-up. I know what I'm getting into when I see that episode pop up on the screen, and every time I'm like, ha ha, chocolate parfaits, you're never gonna have them, ha 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 ha. I'm in the kitchen,
no.
I'm making coffee, I turn around, she's got the little handkerchief in her hands, and she's screaming, and I'm just there like, oh my god, this 14-year-old child is suffering.
It's because it's so innocent. Because like,
So
well, did you feel like so cringe about how she like, you know, latched onto him? Like it was such a not, you know, received back love, you know?
yeah.
But yet her innocence is, I agree with you, Age. It's really sad. Like it's just the innocent that gets you, even though we know there's a lot of red flags with this relationship.
Right. And
Yeah,
I think,
it's very complicated.
and I
very.
think Tuxedo Unmasked, he talked about how the actress actually cried recording that scene. So
Again,
It was
shout out
worth
to
it.
Tuxedo Unmasked for diving under the surface.
Right.
These little factual tidbits no one would ever know without him.
I do want to mention another moment, though, that I think about all
Absolutely.
the time. Sailor Moon R, when Usagi's in the phone booth.
ugh,
I can't watch
Oh,
that.
breakup.
It's
The
I
the
can't.
breakup.
I can't.
and then
No,
now that
no.
I'm older, like when I was a kid, I was like, but why? And now that I'm older, I'm like, honey, he's trash. He's trash. But it's the portrayal, like you never got that. And I know that the manga is more serious than
Right.
the original anime, but I feel like the emotional heights never reached that point where you were like, she's sad, I'm sad. Like I would get broken up with as a kid, and I would just play that episode like I was torturing myself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The
Like,
things
I'm,
we do.
I'm such a romantic person, and you know, dating has been very hard, like over the years, and so it's moments like that I relate to, because it's like that like it that moment when she and Mamoru break up, it was like she didn't, like the look on her face when he like dropped the bomb on her, she didn't even have the energy to fight it. She was like, you
She was
win.
defeated.
It was
Yeah.
a deer in
Yeah.
headlights.
Right, like
Oh.
you win.
It was like,
I'm
this
gonna
is the
leave.
ultimate villain she has to
Yeah.
face. She's actually defeated in this movie.
Right. Yeah, it was just such a visceral, emotional moment, especially because it's like it was quietly done. It
Mhm.
wasn't like this knockdown, drag out, breakup fight that is typically portrayed in normal media. It was, you know, Mamoru, for whatever reason, doing what he did. Granted, I know you're having visions. I know that you want to protect her, but it's like, was that the way to do it? The writer's like,
Anime
yes, this is the
monitor.
way to do it.
Perfect way.
Yeah, a lot of red flags with anime monitors,
Right.
for sure.
I think, you know, there's so many emotional moments in Sailor Moon that I love. But I have to, and this is just in this particular moment, but I think like Age kind of like knocked this one off the top of the shelf for me. For me, the moment in Sailor Moon Eternal where she is agonizing over whether or not she should leave him. And
Oh.
she was like, I bring so much pain into your life, maybe I should leave you alone. And
And weren't they both thinking that though?
they were
Like, about
both
each
they were
other?
both thinking that, but Kotono Mitsuishi's portrayal of Usagi has just the way it was so tender and so emotional. Like let me tell you that I was scouring the internet trying to find the Sailor Moon Eternal soundtrack for the background music in that particular scene. Like, it was the first time I bought something off CD Japan. That's how bad I wanted this soundtrack. I could not wait for Sailor Music or Miss Dream or whoever to release it. I was like, I have to have it now. Because the music, even like in the music in that scene, it was such a blink and you miss it moment in Sailor Moon Eternal, but it's like the way Usagi was tormenting herself over whether or not she should be with this person because of how it was affecting the person that she loved the most. Just, I was floored. Like that moment, and when Chibiusa realized that when she thought that Helios was looking for Sailor Moon, like that, those two moments in Sailor Moon Eternal were probably the most emotional for me, and that's what's coming off the top of my head right now after like asking you guys that question. So, Brooke, did you answer this already?
I haven't. I've just been listening to all of your guys' excellent examples because there's so many. I feel like we could like do multiple podcasts, about all the sad moments and the really emotional moments throughout all of the Sailor Moon, the manga, the anime, Eternal, Crystal, all the platforms for Sailor Moon. But one that really resonates with me, I mean, I agree with everybody. Everything that you've said so far about the sad moments, totally spot on. There's a lot of good ones. But one that, just kind of popped in my head the moment you asked me that question was Sailor Stars, the anime. After she defeats Chaos, gets rid of that, seals that bad dude away, she realizes that she might not get her friends back for a moment. She might not get anybody back that she loves. Before their star seeds, regenerate whatever.
Pause. Wait. The epiphany I just had.
What?
When you said that.
Oh my god.
I did not realize that she beat Chaos and didn't, and like I was like, oh, her friend. My immediate thought was she's gonna get her friend. It did not dawn on me until you just said.
Well, because
she was like, I'm done. This is it.
She did it. Yeah, and she's alone, and she starts crying, and she even says something like, and I can't remember the exact words, that I feel so alone. I don't have anybody. I miss you guys. I mean, it's like tragic because at the time, I mean, we obviously know as going through 5 seasons of Sailor Moon, they're coming back. But like Usagi in that moment thinks that she did everything right and she beat everything, and she's going to be alone from here on out.
Wow.
At what cost, and I don't know, that just kind of resonates with me because, that's my biggest fear in life is being alone. And it just really hits home. But yeah, that's one of my moments that gets me.
I like that you mentioned that. It's true, She did have a moment of absolute terror, but what's funny is who's the first person she sees? It's Mamoru.
Yep.
Right.
He comes back
and
first.
And it doesn't end with a wedding. It needs to end with a damn wedding.
Oh gosh, that's where the manga was so satisfying to me.
They wrapped it up.
That they wrapped it up the right. Well, I can't say it the right way, but it was such a satisfying end, in my opinion. Like for the manga, it's like, oh my gosh, yes, they get married, and she's gonna have Chibiusa, and it's gonna, it's just like.
I always wonder why they didn't do it in the 90s anime because of how young they were. I was like, was this a little like cringe,
A little time jump couldn't hurt anybody.
Right.
Yeah, they could have just jumped like 4 years, after college, but
yeah, it's made them like draw them older,
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh,
that would be so cool.
You guys, you have no idea. Like I literally, when I watched episode 200 on Real Player on my computer, I literally watched it until the end because I literally thought there was going to be more, until the ending card when it was like, that's the end. I'm like, no. It was like, oh well, they didn't get married. There's still more adventures to be had. Like, no, this is it. This is the end. And there's no episode 201.
But think about this, Grayson. There are more adventures to be had. We're getting Cosmos.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Like when Sailor Moon Crystal first announced, I was like, you could have hit me over the head with a pen. There's no way you could have told me that a Sailor Moon revival was on the horizon at all, because it seemed like such a final thing, especially after PGSM, because it's supposed to have been 20 years since PGSM aired, and so it's like PGSM was quote unquote it, like that was it for the Sailor Moon franchise. It was like for Crystal to be announced, and for what we went through with Crystal and then Eternal, and now we're getting Cosmos, and I'm just like, and we know it's the inevitable end. I'm just like, where do we go from here?
I don't want to think about it. I've already
I
had to
don't
think
wanna
about
think
it with
Oh
about
my
it.
gosh,
musicals.
but we
like, like,
We should talk about that question that you had, because you had a question that was like, how has collecting been since you first started? How does it compare to today? Because
Yes, let's bring that.
whoa,
Let's
that,
bring
I mean,
that
that kind of
forward.
goes into what you were saying. Like, things are so nuts now.
Yes, yes. So let's bring that question forward. So you guys have been collecting for a while, and I know that initially, like, there was only so much to collect since the '90s. How was that like collecting, like, the '90s merch and stuff like that? And even buying overseas, because a lot of this stuff is not available in America. And how does that compare to today's merch boom for Sailor Moon?
Oh man, I can kick off this one.
Okay.
Because I came from the OG days. So I seriously started collecting around 2006, and that's kind of just when I started labeling myself as a collector. Of course, I had little knickknacks and stuff from Sailor Moon.
Okay, pause.
before.
2006?
2006, baby.
Oh my gosh, I swear, you could have told me you've been collecting since '95, and I would have totally believed it.
I mean, I did probably have some things in the late 90s for sure, but like I don't even think I would have known I was a collector then, like
Right.
it all made sense to me, and like I knew what I was doing in 2006. So I kind of label that as my starting year, the official start point. All my stuff did not happen overnight for sure, like a lot of people love to think. It's been very many years, but like it's completely different if we're going to talk about like how it first started for me to today, because like back in the early 2000s, like it was so niche. It was like only a small group, it felt like, that was scavenging like secondhand places like eBay, Mandarake. We just started learning about Mandarake and Yahoo Japan auctions and how to use a proxy for out-of-print Sailor Moon goods, because at that time there was nothing new being released for Sailor Moon. So Sailor Moon's fans who came from that era, we kind of call it the dry period, which was between like 2004 to 2011, and that was when no new Sailor Moon merchandise was being released. And I say 2011 is because that was the official start of a new Sailor Moon era that we're still in today. Like, consistent merch has been released since 2011. That's when Hot Topic and GEE started to release like new Sailor Moon merchandise. This was also the year that Italy started to release their new Sailor Moon toy line of dolls and a re-release of the Moonstick. So like before 2011, like if you collected then, it was like at your own pace. That's how it was. There was nothing being released. It was very chill. It was just like, oh, if I have extra money this paycheck, I can go, to grab something wherever, like on eBay. That was mostly where we shopped from.
Right.
But like fast forward to now, we have so many Sailor Moon items releasing every month. We're in a very active period. Honestly, I'm here for it. I love helping my fellow Sailor Moon fans get the news, to stay in the loop, help them find what they're looking for and all of that. But it's definitely overwhelming. We've had no breaks since 2011.
Wow, 12 years of no breaks in Sailor Moon. That is so. It's so crazy to think that it's been over a decade.
I know, like it really puts things into perspective on how fast time has been moving.
And Ace, what about you? Like how like when did you start? What was it like collecting when you started, and how does it compare to today?
Yeah, so I am one of those people that started in '95. Collecting was very different. You had different challenges. In the '90s, the issue was I can't find merch, where today the issue is, well, I can't afford a $2,000 purse. Different challenges. I actually sold a lot of my vintage items from the 90s to fund that 2011 revival, because I remember SH Figuarts, for example, not my favorite toy line. But when they released that first Sailor Moon SH Figuart in like 2013 or 2014, I jumped on it.
Yes.
It was crazy. I jumped on it. I bought 2 of it. And then the Moonstick, if you go to my YouTube, I actually bought that Moonstick like 3 times right afterwards.
The Italy one, the 2011 Italy one?
No, the Proplica.
Oh,
I do have the Italian one though, but it's like you said, like you had to scour eBay, you had to go to LiveJournal and talk to strangers on the internet and just hope that they send you something, that they actually send you what you bought. It was the Wild West of the internet all during that dry period. It was so frustrating. Like, imagine You're 15, you don't have a credit card, and now you got to go to eBay. So you're like, okay, ask my dad, hey dad, can you buy these DVDs of this live action Japanese show? Oh, are they official? No, they're just going to be loose discs. It's an uncomfortable conversation that I no longer had to have because I'm an adult. I make my own money. I buy whatever the hell I want. But that's the problem, right? So what you probably don't see behind the scenes is, and this goes to every collector. This happens to every collector because, for example, Black Milk does not have a physical store. To check out these items, you have to buy it. You have no choice. You have to buy it and then you have to sell it again. So collecting is a matter of replenishing your collection constantly, especially if you want to have a highly curated collection. Like my dream is to have a villain collection, but Bandai does not make villain merch. And that's my biggest issue. I feel like the older we get, the more entitled we feel, but the more experienced we feel in saying they should have done XYZ. They should have done XYZ again. So when I was a kid, it was like, cool, Sailor Moon. My mom bought me the toy at Suncoast. And then now it's like, Jesus Christ, hire a professional. What is going on with this company? So different frustrations, different attitudes. But it's great that it's been nonstop. It's excellent. Like you want shoes, you got shoes. You want a toothbrush, a Sailor Moon electric toothbrush is an actual thing that came out.
Right.
So we've become the Star Wars, essentially. There's rice makers.
I wish we were as
Need
big
rice
as Star
makers?
Wars.
Crock pots, yes.
Mhm. So
Um,
it's a good time. It's
yes.
a different time.
It's a
Right.
different time. That's what I want to. Yeah, definitely a different time. And I think we should make videos about talking about how it used to be because a lot of people, they're new in the fandoms and they
Right.
never came from that area. And there's a lot of good stories.
Right. I started collecting, when the figure arts came out, that's probably when I first started buying Sailor Moon merch.
I think a lot of
And-
people started around then too. You're
Yeah.
not alone.
Yeah, so I was working at the Boys and Girls Club at the time, and I was also getting comfortable in liking Sailor Moon. So it's like a lot of my kids at the time liked that I love Sailor Moon so much, and I bought, I was like buying the figure arts when they first came out and stuff like that, and I got the first set, and then Super Sailor Moon, and then they started releasing the animation color. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And I think that that's also something that, like, for, extensive collectors like yourselves, like, I love that you have 3 moon sticks. Like, that just blows my mind. I just want one.
I think at the beginning, around 2014, we were all a little like we were deprived for a while, and so we were
Yes.
like, we need 3 of these if they're releasing them out. I mean, we weren't making great decisions. I regret all of the copies I additionally bought of a lot. I think I bought 4 of the figure arts when it initially released. I was like, I have to have 4. I don't know why. I'm not like that today.
Right. So for me, I'm getting to a point, and like when it comes to like buying stuff, and like I need to keep like, so I'm not breaking the bank every time. Where I'm like, okay, I'm not buying the animation color edition. I'm buying the first wave of figure arts because I've already started that wave. I can't justify going back and buying the animation color edition. Plus, they're so, and I don't know why I made that decision because the first wave is very expensive. I just bought, and it depends on which figures that you're getting. So I got most of them. I'm waiting for Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn to be delivered in the next week or so.
Congratulations. Those
I-
are good ones to get.
Yeah, and they were relatively cheap. I need to get the super versions of the Inner Senshi.
Those are so rare. I can't
they're
believe
so
how
rare.
rare they became. You thinking that how common they were going to be. We thought that
Right.
they were going to be the same common level as the other one.
So
No,
it's
they
like
only
so
did-
crazy now that it's like that they are individually like anywhere over $200. Like maybe
I don't even have them all. Yeah, I think
maybe
I only have.
180.
I have Jupiter and Mercury of the Super Guardians. That's it.
Yeah, and like I saw a whole set of them, almost $800 for the entire set.
My heart.
And I was just like, oh gosh, I don't know.
They're not even good.
Well, the figure arts
we
in
literally had that
general
conversation on
are-
Instagram too, where it's like she's like, my Eternal Sailor Moon figure art still sitting in the box because they are a bitch to set up. They are.
It's like
they're
you just have
great.
to leave them.
Yeah.
Don't touch them again. You know.
I swear, it's like when I first got them, I was like, I feel like my man hands are gonna break these things because
And a lot of people did break them. Like
Yeah.
it was tragic how many of them actually broke. And you spent $60 on this.
yeah, like someone was like, I went to the Level Up Expo here in Las Vegas, and I was looking for like, I literally like, it's very hard like going to like expos stuff like that because Sailor Moon stuff is so hard to come by at these expos.
What though, Grayson? I went to, like I said, I went to Planet Comic Con and I was shooketh at all of the officially licensed Sailor Moon stuff that I found. Like I'm like, I want to go to cons just to shop now. I was blown away at like some of the hard to get prize figures and plushes that normally don't get an international release. I was like, and they were actually pretty good prices.
Yes.
And I was like, dang, I need to start going to these.
Yeah, so some of the booths that I went to, and honestly, it was like sprinkled. They were sprinkled throughout this entire convention center, so it was very hard. So for me, it's like it was a good thing for me because I had made a point where I was like, okay, I'm a big X-Men fan. I love Westworld and stuff like that, and I was like, I'm gonna collect it all. And I'm like, I don't have that type of money with my full-time job.
Wait, there's Westworld merch?
I have 4 Westworld Funko Pops sitting on my
I need to
shelf
get
right
on that. What a great show with a terrible ending.
Oh my gosh.
I saw the girl, what's her name? The cute little girl. Like they made a
Dolores?
full-scale Dolores, yes,
Yes.
in her little house on the prairie outfit at
Yes.
Target. Back in the back, with all the figures and stuff. I seen that one time and I was like, who collecting these? Anybody after them?
Yes. So I think like the only I was in our last episode, I was talking to my good friend Dayspring from Power of X-Men, and I literally sent him. It cost me like $140 to send him all of my X-Men action figures and stuff because I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on Sailor Moon because I can't afford to buy all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I sent him all that stuff, and like we were talking about like having to make choices and dealing with inflation and the economy and stuff like that. So it's like me moving into my parents' house. I was like, okay, I don't have so much room for stuff. Sailor Moon it is. But yeah, it was like having to make that choice and being very mindful of what I want to get. So initially, I have to thank Age for this because I had no intention of buying the Glitters and Glamour statues until she showed Sailor Mercury in her video, because I was like, I'm not gonna get, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of Crystal Eternal Cosmos animation. I loved like 90s, so like her Super Sailor Moon statue with the Cloud Moon scope, I want that. But I was like very hesitant to get the Glitters and Glamours because I was like, I don't know, it's not really the art style that I like. But then I was like,
They're the
oh my
best.
God. I was like, Sailor Tortilla has these on Instagram, and I'm like, when is this going to happen again? Probably never. Let me get them now. So yes, thank you, Age, for showing your Sailor Mercury because I just pre-ordered all of them.
Yeah, happy to help. Those figures, it's interesting. They are of the cheapest, but they're the biggest.
Yes.
It's like all the prices are all swapped. Like that should be $60 and the figure art should be less.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
I feel
agree.
like I love that line just because of how affordable it is, and you get a really good solid figure out of it. I just
Yes.
got Jupiter. I'm excited to open her up.
I'm waiting for mine to come in, and I've been collecting the Q Poskets, which I think are very cute.
They're great.
And I wish that the prototype Sailor Moon came bigger. I'm looking at her right now. She's on top of my PlayStation 5, just posing in all her glory. I bought her off of CD Japan, and she came without her mask. So I had to buy her when Brooke talked about the English release. So I was like, I'm gonna buy it again.
Kodansha one.
Yes. So thank you.
That
for
is so
Brooke.
crazy that yours had a defect that bad. I can't believe they.
Yeah, I literally thought I was like, oh my gosh, like did it come with a mask? Did I throw away the mask? I'm really like tearing
Like that
up my
slipped
room.
through quality control. I figured that would be easy to spot. Like, don't let that one through the assembly line.
Right, and
please.
so I was like thinking like, oh, I must have like opened it up in my, fan Sailor Moon fury, like, oh my gosh, I got the cute posket, it's here, and her mask was totally gone, and I was like, oh, is it, like like the head has to be attached. So I was like, oh, maybe the mask has to be attached. So I'm like looking in the box, I'm looking everywhere, and I was like, oh, she just didn't come with one. And I don't have the heart to throw her away. She's so
Yeah,
cute.
I feel really sorry that happened to you, but I'm not surprised. I criticize Bandai to the end of the earth. They don't care. It sucks. I'm
They really
sorry.
don't. I feel bad like having to concur with that statement, but it's like even the Kodansha one that I got, I had to switch the body with the one
What?
that I got from Japan because she had this like gash in her knee.
Oh my gosh, like unlucky twice. How does that happen? Like,
Right.
that
So I
is-
was
that
like,
is
okay,
awful.
well, luckily I can mix and match and make one figure.
I mean, I hear a lot of these, complaints about Bandai and all that, but like I rarely have the issues, and I don't know if I'm just getting lucky every time, but like it makes me sad just hearing these stories that they are happening.
Yeah, and luckily it's just this particular, like this one-off. It just happens to be this particular figure. But for the most part, like even like when I shop on eBay, like I've been very fortunate to get quality items. I had ordered my first Proplica, the Crystal Star compact, months ago, like last year actually, and it came like it was it's the Brilliant Color one. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so amazing. And I think not having this stuff before and always wanting it, and then finally getting it, it speaks to the inner child in me. I think like most of the Sailor Moon merch I had as a kid was like posters, cards, maybe the movies and stuff like that, or the VHS tapes. So it wasn't really like any like actual like merch, like a compact or a weapon or something like that. And I finally to get a Proplica, I was like, oh my gosh, and it was everything that I dreamed of. And it's really cool. And I think honestly, I have you two to thank for that, because I don't think I would have had the courage to even broach the subject of collecting these things if it hadn't been for seeing you guys. And thank you, Klarna, for making it, for easing my anxiety and purchasing these things, because they ain't cheap. But it feels good to know that I can pay $20 every 2 weeks to pay this off.
Oh, I love it. And yeah, at the end of the day, that makes me happy to hear, because that is one thing that if anybody takes anything from my socials, I want them to think that they can wear what they want, they can buy what they want, they can collect what they want, because who cares?
Right. So
The IRS. No, just kidding.
right.
I gotta do my taxes though.
I do too. Don't remind me. Adulting is really hard. So I have another bonus question for you, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, and like you guys are going to answer this because it's so recent. But I need to know like what was your most recent gift. But I want to start with Z because she got a gift from me, merch-wise, and I want her to share it with our listeners.
Jeez, so help me to goodness gracious. Okay. So I recently received the star bracelet from G that they wear within PGSM, and that's actually one of the items that I have always wanted for the longest. Honestly, anything from PGSM I want. Like that's what I want. So G decided to be way too nice for some reason and surprise me with it. And I can't even begin to share the tears of joy that I had seeing the box and then putting it on. And I felt like I was back in my little room again, being 14 years old, doing like the poses and stuff, pretending that I had the bracelet on, and then actually having it on. I was full blown in shambles, crying, weeping, because now I have both the actual like charm bracelet that they wear and then the actual star bracelet. So I was very, very happy. Very, very happy.
So Z loves PGSM. She loves PGSM Jupiter.
So much.
And and she did her Sailor Jupiter cosplay, and she handmade the star bracelet for her costume, and it was the cutest thing I had ever seen. And I was like, there's official merch. We need to get this girl official merch. And it was like my first year meeting her, and I was like, you know what? One of these days, we're going to get you a star bracelet so you can be officially PGSM Jupiter.
He really did say that. He truly did.
And I was just scrolling through eBay, just looking for stuff to watch list, and I recently bought a bunch of PGSM merch beforehand, and I did not have the star bracelet. So I was like, oh, I'll go and get one. And I was like, oh, there's another one. I'll buy two. One for Z, one's for me. And I think that like you being your 14-year-old self and getting the star bracelet, something that you wanted, and it's like, I know like PGSM merch is hard to find and it's not cheap either. So I'm glad that I was able to. I was blessed. Like I think I got some extra money in my paycheck that time. So I was like, you know what? Let me get this, because it's like, it was an opportunity to give. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that we were able to get that for you. Now we just gotta get you a Sailor Star Tambo, and you'll be on your way.
Yep, because I already got my eyes on the harp, because I got to get the harp too to complete my cosplay. And then I think I'll pretty much have everything, because I got the moonstick and the brooch first back in 2019, and then you got me the bracelet, and then on Etsy that's where I got the charm bracelet. So yeah, I'll be close. I don't know about the plushies. I don't know if I'll get Luna and Artemis, but.
So, Age and Brooke, I know that you guys recently bought from the Black Milk collection. So I want you guys to talk about that, and then your most recent purchase before Black Milk, because I know you guys both bought from those. So who wants to kick that off?
I'll open right up, because
Okay.
I ran into my backyard yesterday, stripping through the house, making sure that I could get this video out. Right? That's just how it is. Like, you got
It'd be
okay, I
like
finished
that.
work at 6. Let's go. So Black Milk, okay, very well that I was very critical of it. I never had bought from Black Milk before. So from an outside perspective, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, this is some Alibaba nonsense. Why is this $100?
I'm surprised you bought
Alibaba.
so much with how critical you were. We were like, she bought 10 things, but yet she was
Well,
like trashing
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, one thing is I like to support the official release. I like to do that with my wallet. But also, there's nowhere for us to go and try this clothes on. So you really have to buy it and then sell it and keep the items that you love. And also, I do want to address that a lot of people like to criticize how much collectors like us buy. But like, in my case, I don't have kids. I don't have any other expenses outside of food. Like, this is what I do. This is what I love. But it all goes back to, well, this isn't accessible. I can't go to the store and try it on. And that
Right.
sucks. So I was openly very critical of it. And to an extent, I still am. The thing is that the print quality is insane. It's better than the Van stuff. It's better than the Jimmy Choo
It's
stuff.
so good.
It's great. And the material, it feels good. I'm touching one right behind me right now. The thing the biggest concern I had is, so I only ever get dressed up from the breast up because I do video all day long for work. So no bras in my house. So I was like, man, this thin stuff, everyone's going to see my nippies. It's going to suck. No, not the case. So that changed everything for me. As long as I don't have to put on a horrible bra, I'm happy. So I do love it, but I do want to kind of reiterate that as much as I buy a bunch of Sailor Moon crap, well, I don't have anything else to do. So there's that. Sorry. And what was the second part of that?
So other your recent purchase before Black Milk, and I just have to say, you look amazing in the Black Milk merch. Like,
You're so kind.
the
Thank you.
the Velvety Renaissance one and the sundress one were my favorites.
Yep,
I love
yep.
those on you. So you looked
Mhm.
amazing.
Thank you. It's a shame that those are some of the limited items. It's like
Right.
they took the best stuff and they made it limited. Like the blazer is amazing.
Yeah.
And the most recent Sailor Moon thing I bought, it's unlicensed. I will warn you, it is not official. It's the E2046 Sailor Saturn. It's insane. It's so gorgeous.
Did you
I don't
do
know
a
if
video
you've
on
seen
that already?
pictures. No, I haven't even
Okay.
opened it because I
Okay.
haven't been able to set up my camera. But
Oh,
it's
no.
beautiful.
Okay. I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like because I love that you have and that's another thing why I want that Super Sailor Moon statue that you have from that same company because I was like, I'm very hesitant to, and that's one of the reasons why I appreciate the both of you. Is I'm very hesitant to buy a lot of Sailor Moon stuff if I don't know what it looks like or what like the quality, especially because the bootlegs are out of control too. So, seeing what you guys purchase stuff like that, it makes me more comfortable. Like I know what to look for. I know, I know what I'm looking for. I know where to find it, and I know there's going to be good quality when I get it. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and if you're talking about the Super Sailor Moon Moonglow figure, I actually don't think that one's very good, but we can offline about that one.
Okay. Is it the one where she's holding out the Kaleidomain? I know that.
Isn't there a naked version of that one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I have the
Okay.
naked version as well. I'm having a lot of trouble editing the YouTube video for that because she's entirely naked, except she has boots and gloves, which it has to be somebody's fetish. But it's a very flimsy figure. Her bow on the back already broke, and the big bow at the bottom already broke. I just want to warn you, it's
Okay.
not that great.
Oh,
Okay.
that's disappointing.
Especially for
Yeah.
how much money it's going for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those ain't cheap.
Okay, good to know. Brooke, how about you?
Well, I just got my Black Milk stuff yesterday too. I haven't done an official try on, but I have tried them all on, and actually, I loved it all. Like I'm shocked at how much I actually liked it because I thought from buying it, it was gonna be like these, I don't know, like cheap swimsuit like material, just printed. That's kind of how it came off to me. But then again, I don't know much about Black Milk, but a lot of people actually got up in my DMs and just said the most amazing things about Black Milk, about how the clothing fits, about the clothing quality, about the sizing. And so like it kind of got me excited for it, and it kind of set the bar. My bar started going up high, and then when I got it, I was just as pleased with it. So like for me, I really liked everything, and I kind of want more. I even contemplated doing a second order, but then I talked myself out of it just this morning because I know that there are more collaborations coming. I'm sure Hot Topic's going to drop a spring Sailor Moon collection. I'm sure Box Lunch is going to follow suit soon after. So I'm saving my money for those future collections. But for anybody out there who are listening and who are on the fence about Black Milk, I've loved everything. And the sizing chart, yeah, I didn't really follow it to a T, but some items are like true to size and some were like, I'm glad I sized up. So, and I'll go into more detail later when I do my reels and stuff.
I did the same as well. I also had to size up just because I have IBS, and anything squishes me, I'm not happy.
Yeah, for the dresses, especially the ones that look like more bodycon, where they were more form-fitting, it was putting me in an extra small based on my measurements of my bust, waist, and hips, and I know better than that. So I sized up, and so happy I did because I could barely breathe in some of them.
Oh gosh.
But they were flattering. They look sexy. I'm here for it. But before Black Milk, it's probably something at Planet Comic Con because, like I said, I was just there last weekend. I ended up buying some of the Mechadeca plush. I got the Sailor Moon, the Sailor Jupiter one, the real big ones. They're prize center plush in Japan that never got an international release. They're super good. I was shocked when I saw them in person and just how good the quality was. I ended up buying a couple of those. And
Do you love their eyes? Their eyes are so cute.
They're so cute, and like you don't really get how cute they are unless you see them in person. Like the stock images, on Sailor Moon Fan Network or on Bon Presto Bandai Sailor Moon Official, they did not do those plush justice, and they're so big, so worth the money. But yeah, those are the last things I got, and they were also items I wasn't going to get unless I guess I ran into them in person and fell in love with them.
Okay, that's really cool. So I said that I bought Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn from Figure Arts, and I just ordered the 2014, the 20th anniversary Cosmic Heart and Spiral Heart. So I'm very excited to get that.
Excellent pieces.
And yes, I'm very excited to get them because I won't get the Brilliant Edition until later on this spring and this summer because I pre-ordered it on Amazon. So I'm very jealous of everybody getting to show off their Japanese releases. But it definitely was very satisfying to see A show off hers on Instagram. So I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be good. It's gonna look great when I get mine. this will hold me over until I get it.
And I want your perspective on this because I think me and Brooke usually order the Japanese releases. So what's it feel like to get it so far behind? Do you feel more like you knew what to expect and you're happier with it? Or are you like, damn, why can't I just get this sooner?
I think for me it was something that I just happened to notice on my own. So it was before I saw you guys report on it. So by the time that when I realized I could have pre-ordered it in Japan, I had already pre-ordered it on Amazon. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick with this. I just didn't realize what the release dates were sooner for Japan than it was in the US, which is typically common. But when it comes to like, and I think this like applies to like collecting what I consider like late in the game, because a lot of people that bought this stuff kind of got a head start before I did. So it's like a lot of the stuff that I'm buying is secondhand, or and it pretty much comes brand new. But timing is everything. Everything happens for a reason in a season, and everything happens in its own time. So I'm glad that I'm in this space where I am appreciating it for what it is, and that I have sources that I can go to kind of like vet the information. Plus, I know a while ago, it was on Instagram, something like that, where you say you be very careful about where you're buying from, and make sure that you're reading your item descriptions. Like, you can't just go and just buy Sailor Moon stuff. You have to be very mindful of what you're getting. And I was trying to there was this this listing on eBay for a Sailor Moon charging bank, and I had given my charging bank, my regular charging bank, to my brother, and I was like, I want to get a Sailor Moon one, but something was keeping me from buying this charging bank. And I saw 2 listings for it on eBay, and then I realized they're the same. They were using the same pictures. 2 different listings for the same item with the same pictures. And so I was like, oh, this is weird. And so I went to the comments, and they're like, oh, don't go with this listing. It's fake, or they don't even send you the right product and stuff like that. So even when I bought the Proplicas that I literally had a mini panic attack. I was like, oh my gosh, I bought a defective item. I need to go back and check the item description, because if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't, especially when it comes to Sailor Moon merch. Cheap Sailor Moon merch. So it's like, I saw the Heart Moon rod on sale on eBay, and it was like $60. I'm like, oh, that's a steal. But it's like the person had disassembled it, they painted it, and the top was missing, and it didn't. And because the way they disassembled it, it didn't even play sounds or light up anymore.
What were they doing with it?
Why?
I don't know. I don't know if it was like for cosplay purposes or what have you, but it was like, if it's like the way that it looked. It's like, if you weren't really you have to be very careful about how you're engaging in the secondhand market space, because not only are like bootlegs are concerned, but it's like damaged items and people not being 100% truthful about those damaged items. So it was like, it was very interesting. I was like, oh, it's a steal. Let me add this to my watch list. And I'm like, wait, there's a reason why it's so cheap. Let me go check this out. And I was like, oh, it's missing the top crown part. And they said they painted it red and it doesn't light up. And I'm like, why are you selling this? Like,
Yeah, they were using it for parts for something.
yeah. So it's just very interesting, like what you like how you're engaging in that space. And so knowing that you can go on Sailor Moon Fan Network, you can go to Chica Wolf, you can go to Sailor Tortilla and see these items and basically deem whether or not you want to spend your money on it. And I'm not trying to be the next Brooke or the next Age when it comes to my collection. And I think that there may be a little misconception that if you're collecting Sailor Moon, you have to do it to that extent, and you don't. And I think that that's something that, from like my anxiety when it came to collecting, it was like, I have to buy 3 Moonsticks like Sailor Tortilla did. No, you don't.
Oh my gosh, I hope no one's translating things like that, because don't
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
been through it. That's probably not the way to go.
Right.
Yeah,
But I think
and-
it's like, finding, like for me, it's like I have, like Black Milk is not my merch lane to buy from. Like, I think that most people need to realize, like, like you definitely want to support official releases and stuff like that, but buy stuff that is
Only that
like,
you love, that you
only
like,
that you love and
don't
that you know that
use.
you
Yeah.
enjoy and use
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Not because it's the hottest thing out and you have to get it because it's out to get.
Yeah, and that's always something that I think is a challenge with Ages and Eyes content, because we don't want to do this to create FOMO for people. We want to do this so you guys can make your own decisions, and that's probably one of the reasons that we get the Japanese releases, so we can get it first. We can show you guys if it's worth it, and then if you decide that you do want to get it, you're going to have access to grab the international version. You're going to have plenty of time to make that decision.
Yeah, it's like you're in my head, because I was also thinking, like, we're doing this as a service. We're not even the first people to do Sailor Moon collecting on the internet. We're picking up where other people kind of paved the way for us. And I mean, I wouldn't buy it if someone else didn't review it. And also, who's gonna collect all this crap if you really don't like Sailor Moon? You gotta really like Sailor Moon to get into this crap.
Yeah, for sure. But you definitely don't need everything. And I think that's I think that's a daily struggle for us all. Like, not even just people watching our content, but for us as well. Like, we have to constantly think, is it worth it? By buying this to make content on, do people want to see this? Like, there's a lot of things that go in our head that we need to make our own personal decisions on whether or not we grab it or not. And sometimes it's just because I like it, and sometimes it's like, you know what, I think this is going to get a lot of views. Like, I do both.
Right. So that being said, what advice do you have for novice collectors and people that have FOMO when it comes to buying Sailor Moon merch?
My answer's dangerous for that one.
I figured it would be, but go ahead anyway.
Here's the issue. The problem with Sailor Moon is it's like Supreme. They release it once, they pretend they're never going to re-release it, and maybe 10 years later they do it again. Everything that is Sailor Moon, you can resell, and there is no shame buying secondhand. I've bought secondhand a million times. So essentially, my advice is follow pages like Brooks and see when it is actually announced the first time, so you can pre-order at MSRP, because Sailor Moon items never go down in price. It's like the opposite of Beanie Babies. We all rush to get Beanie Babies thinking they'd be valuable. No, Sailor Moon actually is the real Beanie Baby.
What Beanie Baby was supposed to be,
Right.
Oh my god, did we all come from the Beanie Baby era? Did we all collect Beanie Babies? Because now I'm like being called out.
100%.
I love Beanie Babies.
I know. Oh my god. And at the end, you had so many you couldn't get rid of them. You didn't want them anymore. I had to donate them. I couldn't sell them. No one wanted them.
That's the mood.
Oh gosh.
But that's good advice.
It's very valid.
Yeah, that's great advice, because like Age said, your best bet if you really want an item, is to pre-order it at the start. And a lot of people are always telling me, I'm on the fence. And then later, guess what they say? Oh man, I was on the fence. I should have got it. Now it's double. So we do see a lot of that. But in terms of FOMO, that's where it gets tricky, because it's you don't want to pre-order everything if you don't absolutely want it or need it. That's
Right.
another thing. And I always tell people now, especially as being a seasoned collector and going through all the stages every collector I feel goes through, sometimes we're oh my god, I gotta have multiples. I gotta keep one mint in box, one to open and play with, and one for cosplay, I feel don't be like that. Let's just cut out all of that, space. You don't have to go through that. Only really get what you're truly into and what you like and what you think you might use. You don't have to be like us and buy it all. We're doing this because it's our job now, and also a lot of people rely on us now, so you don't have to do it all. You really don't. If I wasn't a content creator like this, there's no way I would be buying it all. I would just be buying what I like.
Right. That's actually really good advice, and I think that that's something that I'm practicing in principle, where it's FOMO is a real thing, and especially you couldn't have told me last year that I would ever have a proper cut. I was just under something that they were gone, you'd never get them again, and if you were going to get them, you're going to spend $1,000, $2,000 on eBay just to get it. And I think it's just like being fearful in that space as well, where it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much money. Like, how can I justify it? And I'm like sitting there thinking like, Gray, you spent your last $20 as a kid that your dad gave you for lunch to buy the Dart Deke trading card set from like 97. Your dad got pissed at you because you spent your lunch money on Sailor Moon trading cards. It's been 20 years and you still have those trading cards. Go buy the damn Proplica.
Yeah, I will say that out of all the items, it's the Proplicas that if you need to get right at the get-go. Like if I
Yes.
can say any items, like the figures, you can take it or leave it. You can buy them secondhand, no
Right.
problem later. It's the Proplicas that end up being so expensive secondhand afterwards. Like
Right.
you start hitting yourself if you didn't pre-order, because now that it's out, the pre-orders are all sold out, and now secondhand places are selling them for double. So
Yeah.
if there's any item I could say get right at the get-go every time, especially if you love it, it's the Proplicas.
Right. And buying secondhand is not. I mean, it's like maybe 2-3 times the MSRP now. For
Yeah, and I mean, there's
Proplicas.
no shame in it. We have
Yeah.
missed out on stuff. I buy
Right.
secondhand too, but
Yeah.
like, if I could give anybody some solid advice, and to
Profit
save
your
you some
profits.
money,
Yeah.
grab them while you can.
Yeah. So, I know like the 20th anniversary Cosmic Heart and Spiral Heart Moon Rod combined was close to $500, and and for me it was just like it was also that same thing where it's like $500 is a lot of money, but at the same time it's like it's something that I love, something that I've always wanted and never got, and if I can hold on to trading cards and playing cards that I've had since middle school, I can get a Proplica because I know that I'll take good care of it and stuff like that. So and also getting to a point to where like when it comes to buying, it's like if I'm meant to have it, I'll get it. If I don't get it, it's completely fine as well. Like we can't have everything we want everything. But it's okay. It'll come back around. Like Age was saying, like if you missed it, it'll come back around either secondhand or through a re-release. Like I don't want people to feel discouraged because they didn't get it right away, and they'll never get it again. Like that's not the case.
Or what I find the case that happens with me, if I totally regret not buying an item that I was on the fence about, and then I can't grab it later. You know what happens with me often? I just forget about it because there's so much crap being released in the future. I'm like, oh, on to the next, the next. That one is I'm not even gonna go after it anymore because I've forgotten about it.
Okay. That's actually very good advice too. Right? And you're right. Like it's like your head is literally spinning from all the new releases and stuff like that. And I think I like the Black Milk release because it's not something that I would get for myself, but I am glad that it creates an avenue for other collectors and other people that love Sailor Moon merch to buy something that not everybody is going to be nipping at the bit to get.
You know what? I was just thinking about this, and I'm not, huge into Black Milk. I don't know much about the brand, but does it seem like they're mostly female-oriented? Like, there's no male clothing or no unisex clothing? Like, I was just noticing that. I know that they're not very extended size friendly, but like, even, unisex, they're not friendly. It's strictly a female brand.
They have big issues with inclusivity. When you ask them about unisex stuff on social media, they're like, the robes are unisex. And it's like, come on, everything's unisex. But like, actually make them attractive, maybe, for other body types.
Use, a non-binary male or male model for the robes then.
Yeah, and honestly, like, as a man buying in this space, like, even, like, when the Vans collection came out, I had to give I love the bucket hat so much. But I had to give the bucket hat to my niece because my head's too big for it.
Wow.
Because it's a female bucket hat. It wasn't meant for a big head like mine. So I was like, oh, I'm so sad that I won't even be able. It wasn't like it didn't fit. It just didn't look right on my head.
Right. Yeah. We all have our own preferences on what we
Right.
like. Yeah.
And even when buying the hoodies, like I end up buying them like large, extra large, because they tend to run small for me. I'm like 5'9", 170 pounds. So it's like, even like when I go to Target, like, and I can only get Sailor Moon stuff. There's like maybe 1 or 2 t-shirts in the men's section, but there's a whole slew of stuff in the female section. So I'm always buying sizes up in the female section for Sailor Moon stuff. Thank you again for telling me about the Target emphasis.
Yeah, I was just thinking, that just popped into my head, honestly, because I was just thinking, I'm like, holy crap, I really didn't see, anything else for, other people. But now that I'm thinking about it, it just might be the brand.
The brand, and honestly, it's like the demographic is on, obviously, young women and adult women. So it's like that's kind of a given. Like when it comes to Sailor Moon, like how many, like I don't know, like how many men are buying, the hoodies and the t-shirts, stuff like that, other than the 2 t-shirts that you can get from the men's section at Target. How many of them are buying the sweatshirts? I couldn't tell you. I know I bought them.
I know we're running on like over 2 hours now, but like I wanted just to ask you, like, do you often feel left out of some of the collaborations that they drop, like when it comes to fashion, or do you feel satisfied in what you can get for yourself, or do you want more?
Box Lunch and Hot Topic have been very good about their merch releases, so I'm like very happy with some of the merch. I wish that I love the transformation brooch, transformation dress ensemble that comes from Black Milk. I wish that came like as like kind of like a dry fit workout shirt. That would be cool, or even like just a hoodie or something like that.
That's a great idea. So you would like that print just on a different type of item, like
I agree.
That...
I agree. That was probably like the only piece that I liked out of that collection. But I'm also very particular about buying some of the merch, because there's a lot of season 1 art, season 1, season 2 art that gets put on practically everything. And season 3 onward is kind of like my niche, so it's very hard to find those items. Big shout out to
the number one complaint I hear: more outers, more outers.
Yes. Big shout out to Marco Albiero for his artwork that's being featured in a lot of the merchandise, and I've actually bought like a calendar and a photo sticker book from him. So I think that's also like one of the reasons like why I like those small creators, because they have some of the artwork or
we were actually
stuff that I
talking
like
about this in like one of my close group of friends, because a lot of the critiques that we always see is, a lot of the same artwork being used over and over, a lot of the copy and paste artwork,
Right.
clip art type artwork that we see over and over. But the whole thing is, we shouldn't point the finger at Marco. It's
Right.
not his doing, it's actually the designer's doing, and they're just being lazy and grabbing a picture of Marco's and just slapping it on instead of actually thinking. And we see this with a lot of collaborations. You can tell like when a graphic designer, has access to their booklet or whatever of licensed imagery, that they actually make it look amazing. And
Yes.
they do very cool patterns, very cool, like just very thought out designs, very mature designs. So we see a little bit of both, but I always see people pointing the finger at the wrong person. I'm like,
Right.
It's not this, it's the designer who has the ability to work with this.
Right.
No, we got to point the finger even higher up. Toei sets these brand guidelines.
Exactly.
They're the ones sending those clip art images saying, you can only use this from season 1. They're
Right.
going to send no outers. They're going to just say that. And they're also
Now,
going to
now
control
that is
everything the
true.
designers do. It's really frustrating for us fans and even the designers. Like, I'm positive whoever designed the Black Milk stuff, as much as we want to criticize and say that this is just a sticker put on a background with no thought, they have to be approved by Toei. They have to be approved by Kodansha. I think even Naoko Takeuchi at some point has to sign off on these things. So that's really where the creative vacuum, I want to say, is. It's this fear in not having them do unusual poses or not zooming in. Sometimes a zoom is all you need. The spray ground backpack that came out is beautiful, and it's Marco Albiero
Exactly.
art.
Yeah.
And that is again the designer who chose to zoom in on that. And I know you're saying that everyone is it's all being approved. I feel like there's so much just coming out. Like they're just, Hot Topic sends them like 50 designs that they want to do, and Toei's like, oh, it's using the appropriate imagery. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Like,
That's kind of how I feel like it's
standard
doing.
affair.
So if the designer's actually thinking about it, if we've got a good designer that maybe be a Sailor Moon fan instead of just somebody who's just like, oh, don't know this series, just got to design something real quick, let's just slap this on there, So I feel like you can tell which designs have more thought put into it versus people who are just, doing their job and don't know much about the fandom.
Right. And, like Sassy Spice and Rick and Papu on Redbubble, they have some amazing items.
Artists.
And it's like I have Rick and Papu's it's a Sailor Moon S, like with Mistress 9 in the background. I have that backpack, and I have like a notebook and a laptop case, because the art is from season 3, and it's not like cutesy tight like season 1, season 2, like it's not like regular like Target stuff. It is like a nitty-gritty moment, like she's dropping the Holy Grail and she's crying, and Mistress 9 is like glaring menacingly in the background. Like you don't see a lot of Sailor Moon stuff like that out there, so it's like I have to get this because it's so cool looking.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll never understand is just, I don't know, the licensed images that are approved for, graphic designers to work at. It's like they never change at all.
Right. So we are wrapping up, and we've been on this thing for 2 hours, and I feel like it's never enough time. But before we go, I want to know, like, out of all the things that you have collected over the years, what is your favorite piece, or can you name a favorite piece thinking about that?
I can. It's really easy for me, actually. When you have an emotional affinity for something, it's just like, oh, yes, that one. It's like when you pick your husband, you're like, yes, that one, please. So
the analogy.
Yes.
That's what it feels like. For me, it's the Cutie Moonrod Proplica. I think it's great. It just
Which one?
feels... Well, that's a great question. I prefer the original because I like the shiny reflective ball. It reminds me of the 90s. Now, do I also like the Brilliant one? Yeah, I do. Both of them are essentially the same. What's great about that item is the weight. For whatever reason, it's heavier than my Spiral Heart Rod. Correct me if I'm like feeling some type of way weird about it. Maybe I took out the batteries or something, but it feels heavy, substantial. It's quite large.
And squeaky.
And yeah, it's just like, it's when you're a kid and you're like, I'm Harry Potter. Well, that's how I feel. Right. I grab the Cutie Moonrod and I'm like, okay, this time I'm really Sailor Moon. The moon stick is fine. All the other ones are great. But it's just that Cutie Moonrod with its very long, slim. I guess it's just because it's like a baseball bat. It's great. I love it so much.
Heavy. Yeah, like it's real thin in the middle where you hold it, but then like it feels so top heavy, like it's gonna topple.
Yeah, and it's fun to spin around in your hand. It's just, and this is not a rare item. I'm not even mentioning my most rare item, but it's just a great, solid piece that I feel like they just did a great job.
Let me take it a step further. If your house was on fire, which Sailor Moon item would you go grab?
Oh.
Cosmos. Cosmos immediately.
The statue?
Yeah. What about you?
Me, I just that one thing, only because of rarity and what it is, and that's my little Sailor Moon World Cosmic Heart Compact Necklace. It took me so many years to track it down, and like I always get asked this. It's like, how do you find this stuff? I feel like I'm never gonna find it, and I'm like, sometimes you just honestly have to be patient. Like it's taken me years and years to find some of these rare pieces, and I feel like that Sailor Moon World Cosmic Heart Compact little locket, it's so rare I'd never be able to replace it again, just how long it took me to find it. And it's Sailor Moon World, my favorite Sailor Moon items to collect. It's got a special place in my heart. So that'd probably be it for me for both. It's my favorite, and it'd be the one that I go grab in a house fire.
And I thought it was really cool, like, that you said that you collect like 10th anniversary merch. Like that's like your thing.
Yes, that's my thing. Wow, a lot of people don't know about it.
Right.
Yeah, because it was like right before the dry period. It was the last Sailor Moon merchandise that was released before the licensing stopped for a while until 2011.
And I think that that's really cool. And I think that also like goes to show like you don't have to collect it all. There's like certain things that you can collect, and I'm starting to realize that.
I always tell people if they're going to start collecting, get yourself a focus. Get
Yes.
yourself a little area that what do you like the most and why, and you
Right.
have to go through those reasonings and then see where you're at.
Right, and so for me, it was like the figure arts. The first wave of figure arts is definitely something that I'm looking to complete. At least all the Sailor Moon replicas. As much as I love Uranus and Neptune, I am so bummed that they did not release the Sailor Pluto one.
I know. I keep thinking, I'm like, okay, any day we're just going to get an announcement that they're just going to drop it. That's my hope.
And it's like, and I don't know if they're just like not doing that because it's not a Saturn one. I wish that we at least got the Inner Senshi. I know that Michiu Tomozawa, who was Sailor Mars, is retired, but hey, give her a bucket of money and get her in a booth so she can release a Mars, at least a star rod, like for their transformations or whatever. Like Aya
Star Power Sticks. I would
Yeah.
love electronic versions of those.
Yes, I'm like, Aya Hisakawa is still acting. Like, let her do Sailor Mercury one more time. Like, it's like,
That'd be cool to get a re-recording of the people that are still alive. But I feel like even if they're not with us anymore, like you can still go back and grab the raw, audio.
it's so.
Yeah, we have
it's-
AI processing now. I'm sure they could do something really impressive.
Let me tell you. So, so I mainly do Sailor Moon edits on social media. So the one thing that is hard to get, and it's something like, like my official collection was buying all the Sailor Moon music, but now I have it like all digital. And my favorite part of the entire music collection is the sound effects collection.
Oh, yes. I use that all the time in my YouTube videos. And I'm always like, just clipping little bits. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I get with
So
it.
the sound effects collection is not 100% complete because it mainly does like all the Sailor Moon ones. It does some of the crystal change rods for the Inner Senshi.
And then like,
Yes.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
those sound effects. They're so good.
They're so iconic. The sound design for the 90s anime is iconic. I wish it carried over into Crystal, Eternal, and Cosmos because it's like, without those sound effects, it's just not hitting for me. So on YouTube, there are some people that are known for making, like, extracting the sound effects. The mastering for the Sailor Moon anime is like melded together to where you can't separate the vocals from the sound effects. It's like, and it's the only anime that really did that. Like, I don't know like what happened in the mastering process, but it's like if you like watch Precure or if you watch Wedding Peach or something like that, like you can easily separate those two tracks. But for Sailor Moon, it is the hardest thing to do.
It's like the redheaded stepchild of Toei. They treat One Piece better, they treat Dragon Ball better. It's really frustrating.
Oh, I
so-
know. We just want equal representation.
I was like, I just want a complete sound effects collection. I want a complete Publica collection. Like, I want, it's just like, I think it was like the older we get, the more entitled we get age. It's like, I'm a completionist. So I'm like, I need a complete set. Complete the set. Like, go ahead and put your brains together and release a Garnet Rod and a Silence Blade because
Ooh,
They
like
already know how to
full
make it.
scale?
Yeah.
Oh my
They-
god, I would die.
They had them at the museum. It's not like they can't just throw those into a factory and get the molds for them. Like this is the
know.
thing, right? Like
Well,
we've seen them. They
do it
exist.
for the musicals all the time.
Yes.
Just look, go find one in the trash and take it out and put it.
They would be like $700,000. Can you imagine? Oh, I'm like sweating thinking about the prices if they made these.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm high key concerned about the Eternal Rod because,
no.
are they going to sell the extender? Is it going
The
to come in
Eternal
one
Tiare.
box?
Oh my god.
I mean,
Yeah.
right? It's got to be like $300 if they actually make it extendable.
The freaking Spiral Heart Rod was $200 as the Proplica, and it's not even that big. Oh,
Are you for real? Did we
Yeah,
really
they're
pay
like-
that much?
They're like, I don't know what they are. Let me go look.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the USD retail.
That's
Yes.
a crime.
But my thing is like I'm very I'm very sad we didn't get a 90s Paprika of the Crisis Moon Compact.
I'm always pissed about that one. That one was such a huge like it's like they play the music. I'm like, I don't know this song. And I
Oh
just
my
put it
gosh!
down.
And the sound effects too. Like it's like no. Like it's And
It was a miss.
we're not going to get the same for the Eternal Moon article, and it's going to be this Cosmos version. It's not going to have the little ball on the top like the 90s does. It's not going to. I think somebody said that there's going to have 90s sound effects. I don't know if that's going to actually happen.
I don't know who said that because it would not make any sense.
It would not make any
So
sense.
it's just stepping back in. It's $174.99 USD for the Spiral Harpoon Rod Proplica. Brilliant.
That's a
color.
crime.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that's-
it was
that's like half of
18,000
rent.
Yeah, and it was 18,000 yen in Japan.
Wow. And I'm sad because we're not going to get a Propica of the Eternal Tiare from the 90s anime. It's going to be.
Yeah, they're definitely focusing on Eternal
Eternal
Cosmos.
Cosmos,
Yeah,
yeah.
they are with the Proplicas, and I get it because that's the stuff that's being released. That's the stuff that's in the that's current.
Right.
So I hope after these movies are over, we can go back to the 90s. Give me
Right.
some breaks, okay?
Yes.
My bank is hurting.
Right, but I'm glad that I saw Sailor Tortilla get on Sailor Tortilla the Eternal Kaleidomoon scope because I'm like I'm not getting that. I'll get the 90s one. I'm gonna have to pay like close to $700 for that, but
Did you say 700? No.
yeah, I think it's like
That's how much they run now.
Yeah, $500
But
to $700.
I don't even look
Yeah.
at Proplica prices just because I own them, but
Yes.
I would never have guessed they were that high.
Yeah, the Transformation Brooch and the Disguise Pin Proplica, I just got it off $400 for that. So,
Yeah, but to your point, Grayson, the sounds not being from the 90s just kills it. It just kills it.
It does, and as much as I love some of the music in Eternal and Cosmos and Crystal, it does not hit the same as the 90s music does. And I feel like it was such a miss for them to not honor and pay homage to Takanori, who did all the music from the 90s anime. He's no longer alive. Like, what better tribute to pay to someone that single-handedly composed all the music for Sailor Moon? And I'm sorry to say, Precure has better music than Crystal.
And I do want to say they did an amazing, amazing tribute to the music with those classical concerts. I listen to those CDs all the time.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was. I know.
I regret not going to those.
Oh, Dayspring from our last episode had mentioned that he wished that the Sailor Moon Crystal could have done something different with the storytelling of Crystal, Eternal, and Cosmos. Like, it would have been a great opportunity to take the anime and the manga and to create something that is more reflective of the manga, but still have some of those key 90s moments that a lot of us fell in love with. I honestly thought that's what they were going for when they first came out. I like that it's a faithful adaptation of the manga, but it's the redheaded stepchild. It did have its animation issues that I was not 100% happy with, and some of the haphazard choices that they made, or errors that they overlooked. I was saying this, and I still will not forgive them for using the Moonstick animation for the Moon Princess Halation scene. I was like, what is wrong with you?
I hated on Crystal so much at the beginning, and
I hated it. I wasn't happy with it, but I watched it anyway.
I know. We were like, we're still gonna support it.
Right.
and
I'm like, I'm
chuck
still
our
gonna
money.
support it. There's no
Yeah.
new Sailor Moon out. This is
Yeah.
it. I'm like, and I'm just like, and for
And
me,
didn't
it
you
was
just
like,
have the hope, like it was just gonna
Yes.
get better? Like they're just
I was
gonna
literally just about to say
get
that.
better.
I was
This is
like-
the testing, phase.
I was like,
They're
oh my
gonna get
gosh, if this is anything like the manga, it's going to be good. And it was just like, that teaser and the first episode gave me so much hope, because
The
I was
music
like,
video, the one with actual good
Oh,
animation.
good.
Yes.
Good animation. Oh my god,
Like,
I love
it
that
was
music video
like-
so much. Oh.
it had so much potential, and had they had just kept that consistency, I don't even think they would have changed.
I feel like we
season
need to bring
3.
Z into this because Z graduated from PTSM to Crystal, and I got to know her thoughts on what she thought of Crystal.
Oh goodness, golly.
And she's a media major, so she knows all of the good stuff.
Yeah, because you just heard
Oh,
our
Lord.
thoughts. We, as 90s Sailor Moon fans, weren't very happy. But how did you feel about Crystal going from PGSM? Like, what were your thoughts?
I loved Crystal. I loved every moment of Crystal because, again, I didn't really have backing with the manga or the 90s, so I guess you could say I had a fresh
You did,
perspective,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. only really having PGSM as my judge, and it's like, oh, there's more. This is where's Princess Sailor Moon at? Where's all these extra characters?
Right,
But
I can't imagine what that was like for you.
I personally enjoyed it. I think oftentimes when it comes to, beloved series often getting rebooted and kind of re-put into the limelight, I think there's naturally going to be a lens of nostalgia that people have. It's like, ooh, I want this to be just like how it was here. I want to see all these different stuff. I want to hear the sound effects. I want to hear this kind of music. I want the art style to look like this. I want it to be just like how I saw it when whatever came out.
I'm now
But
starting
I
to understand the
think-
Deke fans.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my god, that's exactly my analogy. Because I went from the 90s, to Crystal, and a lot of people went from Deke to the Japanese. So of course they're gonna like the okay. Sorry, you just kind of put things in perspective for me.
Yes.
And understanding sides now.
Yep. And I think Crystal in general, like, you got to think about like the psychographics and psychoanalytics of it all, like who it was aimed for, the animes that were out at the time, considering the style that Sailor Moon Crystal had. I would say it's really conjunct, for lack of better words, with other animes that were out at that current point in time. So I don't know. I liked it.
The first season, I thought the first season, it definitely looked like different than any other animes at the time. Like I know that they were trying to,
They were very
replicate Naoko's style.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
very deliberate in, trying to mimic Naoko's style, and
But putting like
and the thing about it is that they were on the right track. When I saw, Sailor Moon do her Oshokyo pose in the new animation style, I was like,
it ate.
okay, I'm on board.
From the
Sign-
original
sign-
trailer,
Yeah, I was like,
where we
sign
set the
me
bar
up.
so high.
Right, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be great. But I had to remember, we watched the first airings of Sailor Moon Crystal. So for us, it was like,
Which one did Z watch? Z, did you watch the corrected version, or did you watch it with us? when
I
they were
watched
airing?
the first airings. Like I was on the very end of season 1, I believe, when I finished PGSM.
So you saw like the wonky animation
Yep.
and the mistakes. How did
Yep.
you feel about those? Were you like, oh, this is a little weird, being a newer anime, they shouldn't have these issues?
I mean, I thought it was weird, but I guess again, just kind of going in with a fresh mindset of I don't know what any of this is like. I'm assuming that is like original kind of ties and
Yeah.
stuff. But like
and
I
I
don't
think
know.
that. Oh no, I'll let you finish.
Oh no, you can say anything. It's all good.
Yeah, because I also don't want to understate how excited we actually were. So I
Mhm.
got lucky enough that the first episode premiered during SuperCon, which is a local convention here. We had a room fill up 4 times of people wanting to come back and watch the new episode. That first episode was solid. We didn't really
Yes.
know that it was going to turn into what it turned into.
Right.
And nothing makes me feel more like a Star Wars fan, Star Wars, than Sailor Moon Crystal. Because I'm sitting here going, well, where's the music from the original? It doesn't have the same emotional, like the same things we said about Obi-Wan. I don't know if you guys are Star Wars fans, but like,
yes, we are.
Yep, yep.
it hurts.
Clone Wars animated series is the bomb. Everyone needs to watch it.
Yes. It kind of gets, and I don't even think it's us. Like, I can't say it's us. Like, it's like, for me, it's like, okay, first airings, like, and I'm thinking like X-Men, the animated series and stuff like that, where it's like there were animation errors back then. Okay, they're gonna fix them in the back end. But for me, it was like, wow, you had this solid episode, and it's like if you couldn't keep that consistency, why go with this style if you can't keep that consistency? And it's like
Yeah.
the fact that you can look at Bae Papas and look at Utena, who had different animators, but they had a solid, cohesive animation style throughout the entire show. What
Yeah,
happened?
they had a production-wise, they had a really good delineation of responsibilities on that anime in particular. And I like that you made that point too, because if you're going to experiment with a style, why would you do it with Sailor Moon?
And
Like, why?
Right, and let me point out that Sailor Moon, the 90s anime, had the most inconsistent animation across all their episodes because they all use different animators.
Sailor Moon
So-
franchise in general, even the manga has so much inconsistency.
Right,
Very
And,
true. Before
but
it got
like-
corrected, yeah.
right. But it's like the one thing I loved about the 90s anime is that we had favorite animators. We knew what animators did which episodes and stuff like that. So it's like we know Masahiro Ando and Hisashi Kagawa and Ikuko Ito and Katsumi Tamagai. So it's like these people were known for their distinctive styles, and no one was saying, well, this looks weird and it was fine this episode and it wasn't right this episode. Like, I didn't even, like, even when I first like started watching Sailor Moon, I didn't even notice the
I
different
noticed.
animation
I was
styles.
saying those things. I was like, this episode is drawn a little different.
It was always Ando. For me, it was
Yes,
like, what's wrong with their eyes?
Ando, I can't stand, unfortunately.
It's so funny that you say that, because as bad as Ando was with his episodes,
His episodes were good.
he
Oh,
did
yeah.
so much. He did Sailor Venus's death scene from the first season. He did
It wasn't the
most,
direction,
if
it was
not
just
all,
the
of their
art.
R attacks. He did most, if not all, of their R attacks. Like Venus Love Me Chain, Masahiro Ando. I was like, oh my gosh, dude, if you can do it this good, why can't you do that with your episodes? It was him and another artist, and I can never remember his name. But me and my friend called him the Heart Bow artist because he did these weird, like, curvy bows. He did the episode when the Inner Senshi powered up for the first time into Super Senshi.
Oh, yeah.
He was like really known for like his like big. It was almost old school style, big, huge eyes and like long limbs. I'm trying to remember a specific episode. He did the episode with the violin monster from Sailor Moon S and the editor Daimon with the scissor fingers.
Oh, yep.
That's the animator that I'm talking about. It's like a very like I was not a big fan of his work, but it's just like he's like next to Ando for me. It's like I don't
Yeah,
really
like we all had like favorite animators and non-favorite animators.
Yeah.
Like, it was a whole thing, and
Yeah.
like it still is going on with Crystal Eternal Cosmos. You know, we get different styles every freaking season.
Oh my gosh, but it's like I could not tell you who is animating what on those shows on Crystal Eternal or Cosmos, other than Tadano.
Yes, very involved. Yeah.
And I think
Yes.
that's a symptom of everything going digital. You know, it's
Yes.
easier to stay on model at times, but also you lose a little bit of that individuality. It's kind of like with toys. It's like same franchise, different problems.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are almost at the 3-hour mark, and I definitely want to thank you. I was so nervous for this episode. Like Lumi was saying, she's like, I'm so scared, I'm so nervous. I'm like, me too.
I hope that's
And-
not why Lumi left. We miss you, Lumi.
No,
We're
I
gonna
think she was
bite your
actually-
heads off. Ah, these crazy Sailor Moon collectors are so rude.
But it was such a vibe. Like, I love the vibe like completely. It's like such a mood. I swear, it's like you would think we've known each other for like 5 years.
I was gonna say I feel the same way. It was very easy talking to all of you.
Yes. So I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time and the energy to sit down with us for almost 3 hours and talk about Sailor Moon. And I definitely appreciate you guys being in this space as collectors and, sharing your collection with us, because you don't have to do any of this. The fact that you have, made this a job for you, Brooke, and this is like, and for our age, it's like you do this when you're not working. It's like, you don't have to, and you choose to
Age
share
is
this
the
with
original
us.
powerhouse, because I don't know how she can do it all. When I had my full-time job, my social media definitely suffered.
Yes. So, the fact that you are thinking about the community when you're, before you open your box, you have been waiting for weeks for this package to come, and it finally comes, and you can't open it because you're like, I want to be able to share this with the community. So it's like you're putting the community before yourself. It just speaks volumes, and I hope that, everyone realizes the good work you're doing the Lord's way. And we appreciate you so much.
Oh gosh, you put that so beautifully, but I'm just happy to be here, honestly. If you guys ever need tips, and this is to the audience as well, if anybody needs tips, I will give all the social media tips. It's a creative outlet, it's fun, and it's a good thing for everybody involved.
Awesome. So before we go, I just want to kind of like ask you guys, like, if you want to impart some sage words to our listeners. I know that, like as far as like life or, Sailor Moon merch in general, like And I'll start just to get us kicked off. It's definitely a hard time for everyone right now. We're dealing with a crazy economy. We're dealing with inflation. We're all having to make choices and navigate circumstances that are beyond our control. Like I said earlier, it is okay to treat yourself. It is okay to indulge in your quirks. If you want, let's go buy a cup of coffee, go buy you a Sailor Moon t-shirt, or get you some Klarna, go get you a Sailor Moon Poplica. It's okay, if it brings you joy, do it. As long as you're not hurting anyone, you're being responsible. You took care of your bills, you paid your rent, you got food in the fridge, you got gas in the car, you've taken care of everything you need to. Take care of yourself, treat yourself, do it today. See, what about you? How about you part some sage words for us?
I feel like you summed it up pretty perfectly. I feel like we are definitely in a day, age, and time where I feel like a lot of us, myself included, don't really take care of ourselves. I think self-care is really, really, really crucial and important, especially with the world being on fire, for lack of better words. So stay up an extra hour and watch that movie. Make you some popcorn, get some sweet tea going, do the little things, because it's really the little things that'll add up and overall make you feel better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even if you just take a break, if you just want to sit down and just take a break and watch your favorite show or take a nap, do that. It doesn't matter how big or small it is, as long as it is something you are doing for yourself. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Age, what about you?
Ooh, it's going to be hard to follow that up. Yeah, I mean, that's great life advice. I mean, self-care is one of the most important things you do. You cannot get your health back. But I'll share a little piece of information that I've been following since I was in the first grade. This has literally changed my life. This was pre-internet, but I think that with the advent of social media, don't let anybody on social media let you feel bad. If you think that they're a bigger anime fan than you, they're not. No one is. And if you don't know something about your favorite show, that doesn't mean you're not smart. That doesn't mean you're not a fan. All you got to do is know where to get that information. And as long as you know where, you're a good fan, you're a good person. Don't feel bad. Literally, don't let the internet screen hurt you.
Well said.
Easier said than done, but it's great advice because, you are not the opinion of a stranger.
Right. Exactly.
But to follow up with everybody, because everybody had some amazing advice. I agree with it all. For me, that what I wanted to say in the end kind of is what we talked about earlier, Grayson, how, back then you were put in a box when you didn't want to be put in this box. And I kind of feel like a lot of times people like to put us in boxes, especially Sailor Moon quote unquote influencers. And I hate those boxes as well. And I don't want anybody to put me in a box. And I also try not to put other people in boxes. So, just try to be kind, form your own opinions by what you see, not by what you hear from a third party. There's a lot of negative stuff out there. So always, if you hear something bad, don't necessarily always believe it, unless it's from a trusted friend. Do your own research, find out for yourself. Don't put people in boxes by hearsay.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much. You guys enjoy your day, and thank you again so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Y'all are amazing. It's so cool.
Yes.
You guys are
Stay in
equally cool.
Seriously.
If you guys ever want me back, I'll be back. I love the vibe here, and we missed your other hosts, and I hope they're feeling better. But I would love to come back if you guys would have us.
Absolutely.
Same here.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
weekend.
You too.
No, I'm just tired.
Same. Thunderstorm woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mad disrespectful.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie. I was so nervous. I was up till midnight doom scrolling. So.
Nervous for the podcast?
Yes. We're always nervous for the podcast.
Grayson.
We're normal.
Yes.
As my eye twitches, we're normal.
Completely 100% normal.
Lumi, you good?
I love you.
I love you too.
I love you, Usako.
Shut up before you get bit.
She's fine.